group effort.
You have a better voice anyway, so like,
I have a better mic, but
All right, we should be streaming, and we are live.
yay! From the industrial wastelands of Michigan to the fruited plains of Iowa, this is the American Grease.
Why relate to a sheer perversity?
You are the dead. Remain exactly where you are. Make no move until you are ordered.
We burn them to ashes and then burn the ashes. That's our official motto.
Now we can see you. Clasp your hands behind your
Now
head.
it's on.
Stand out in the middle of the room. Stand back to back.
Who can explain the fascination of fire? What draws us to it, whether we're young or old?
Here comes a candle to light you to bed. Here comes a chopper to chop off your head.
And welcome to the American Grease Factory podcast. This is Nathan.
This is Conlon.
Andrew.
Yep, we're back, and it's the normal crew.
Who else was here?
We had Matt. We had an impromptu podcast last Wednesday or
Yeah,
Oh, okay. Yeah, I kind of remembered that, but then I was like, oh yeah, and then no. So.
and we had Matt on. We discussed Reservoir Dogs.
yeah. We did a makeup podcast to do the one we missed because my dog died, and I wasn't feeling like podcasting. And then I canceled again because me and Dad decided to replace soffits around the garage in the 120-degree heat. And yeah, about 9 o'clock at night, I thought, I don't think I'm ready for podcast tonight. So we're still behind. We'll catch back up, or we won't. I know our fan base is clamoring for more, but here we are.
The future demand is staggering.
So what was Monday like for you guys heat-wise in Iowa?
It wasn't horrible, but I spent most of my day in.
I think I was indoor the entire day. So
It was the weirdest day because it was hot as shit all weekend. This previous weekend, not the one we're in now. But Monday I saw it's like, oh, it's going to be 83. It's like that's the high. It's like, oh, that'll be pleasant. But it was like 90% humidity. It was just god awful. Everything, because it was my first day back at work because we had 2 weeks shutdown, and just everything was breaking down. Nothing was working right, and it's like either I'm not used to this or there's something wrong. And then I got to checking the weather. It's like, oh, the humidity is insanely high. Because the next day it was the exact same temperature, half the humidity, felt fine. Oh, that's just weird.
it's like walking through I was gonna say sauna, but I want to say like a what do you call it, a whirlpool. Like
Yeah, you can just taste the air. But it was that was weird. I hope this summer ends soon.
not till August.
Only like
It's only supposed to get hotter. I think, or has the hottest day already eclipsed or passed by it?
I think it's.
I don't.
Usually till September, it's pretty hot. So,
Yeah, I always thought like the hottest days are in August, aren't they?
yeah. Later
That
in
used to
summer,
be the
yeah.
case. Now I think it's like, I think after the end of July, like you can get some hot days, but you're not gonna get 9 of them in a row. That kind of shit. I don't know. I just hate summer. I have no use for it. I'm glad I know we need it for the crops to grow, but I don't know if I could move further north, I would. There's nowhere left to go, really.
I just know how hot it is just by how much like the grass is dying. It's like, oh, this is what it's like living in California.
Yeah, you got the brown grass. Of course, it's been raining the last couple days.
Yeah.
But yeah, it hadn't rained for 23 days here, not consistently, but this weekend we had some rain.
I was out watering the plants, and then one day it rained. It's like, oh, good, now I don't have to do that.
Yeah, I haven't had a lot of rain this summer. Haven't had a lot of weird storms yet either. We have had like no thunderstorms here since the beginning of summer. There have been a lot of fear, but this like never materialized. Like, bad storms are coming. Better cancel everything. Then nothing happens. No rain, no storms. Like, oh, they just dissipated. But
I remember it was the other day. It seemed like it was light outside, and then I was like in the break room and on the news, like, oh, Marshalltown got hit by was it a tornado or was it just high winds? Tornado, yeah.
you know, there's video of it.
Yeah, there's like something like 7 or 8 tornadoes spotted within an hour. like the other day.
I'm trying to think of the last time we had a tornado here. It's been a long time. I mean, not a long time, but I don't think we had any last year that I remember, or the year before. So we don't get a lot of those here, though. There's some weird effect here. Like, you can get them, but they don't happen a lot. It's not like Indiana or Iowa where they seem to have like 50 a year.
No, yeah, it's the Mimel area.
Yeah.
But really, it's what is it? Fucking, what's the one that gets the most? Is that Oklahoma?
Yeah.
Oklahoma's crazy, yeah. And Oklahoma gets those ones where it's like, looks like it's from a movie. This big thing will be moving and the buildings will get sucked into it. It's like, that's crazy. It's like, yeah, we haven't had this in 3 years. It's like, what? Do you think you're still living here? This is a triannual event? Fuck that.
I mean, living in Iowa, I do take tornadoes seriously, but like Cedar Rapids, except for some like downed trees and power lines, stuff like that, it's never really been horribly affected by, at least in my lifetime, tornadoes and high winds and stuff. So I mean, it's unlike
you guys are near a large body of water too, right?
Yeah, Cedar River.
River, so.
Yeah, and that's I think why
River.
Michigan doesn't have as many problems. It's kind of surrounded on two sides for most of the state with a large body of water.
Well, it kind of depends on, it's like how the high and low pressure and cold air and warm air like mix. That's why you get tornadoes, and that's why it's in the Midwest, because that's where like the jet stream or whatever like
Yeah, the jet
jigs
stream
through.
kind of goes in northern Iowa and in Minnesota and sometimes.
Isn't North America the only continent that gets those?
Yeah, well, there's like, yeah,
They have other things, but
there's like cyclones, but not.
tornadoes in Moscow or something.
Oh, you see like water spouts, and like I remember you see videos of water spouts. It's like, holy shit, a tornado stopped, but like they're not really like that dangerous, or I'm not really sure, but like water spouts aren't exactly. Maybe just they don't have a chance to pick up debris. That's why they're not that dangerous. It's just
Right.
scooting some water around. But
Yeah, they're not picking up a house and throwing 200 miles an hour.
But yeah, I think tornadoes are unique to America. Or I don't know. I think I looked up on Wikipedia once, and it's like, here's other places that get tornadoes, and it's like I think China can have tornadoes,
Yeah.
but you've never seen like a
Unless
YouTube
really-
video of a tornado in China.
Well, if you had a tornado in China, like an F5, 200,000 people would get killed.
Oh yeah, they can't even build buildings that'll halfway stand up to an earthquake.
Suck those little egg crate houses away.
I remember I had a TA, and she was she's Chinese, and she said how she was like from this quaint fishing village of 4 million people.
only had 5,000 grocery stores. Small town
But
life.
still only one coffee shop.
What was this thing I was watching or I was reading? They're talking about they built luxury homes in China. It's one of their failed cities where they build these huge, like future cities.
Oh, just like spec cities. Let's just build
Yeah,
the future and see if
spec
people
city.
come here.
like a spec New York. And they try to make it look like Singapore, or someplace, or Tokyo. Like it looks like Blade Runner type cities, all neon, but they don't do it right because, well, there's a lot of things that happen. Either one, no one can afford to live there because shit's so fucking expensive. It's a poor country. Or this one guy was showing how they like built these houses. They look like houses in like from England, like from the old times, like the country manors that are concrete and brick. Well, it was all like brick fascia, and the concrete, they just poured it over wood molds. And so it looked really nice until the moisture got to it after a few years, and you could just pull your house apart because it was just backed by wood with concrete poured over it. But it wasn't treated lumber or anything. It's just wood planks that they just chopped down in the woods and planed them out and like, here, build this. And yeah, it was one of their spec cities that didn't work. With the freeways that just end in nowhere. But they're trying to figure it out. I don't think there's any rules there on what you can do.
Oh no, well, I mean, the government has some say, but if you throw enough money at the right places, nobody gives a shit.
Yeah. Well, my favorite story was the fake eggs. where it was easier to make. It was actually more cost effective to make eggs out of like basically sheetrock food dye, and it's like it looked like a hard boiled egg, but it wasn't. They just do shit like that, and it's like, well, if you're dumb enough to buy it, it's your fault. It's like, oh, that's a weird concept. And then they have a real problem there with cooking oil, because they'll use it, and you know they'll throw it away, and then the next people will use that oil, and yeah, they
Is that where you get like gutter oil and that shit?
yeah, oh yeah, they'll just seine the raw sewage out of the oil and just reuse the oil for cooking. It's like, what? It gets hot, it kills everything. It's like, you're missing the point. But, yeah, that's a weird place. I don't understand that place. I think I told the story once on the podcast about the guys that were making, because a lot of our investments we make over there, like it's just like they had this company. What were they supposed to be making? Oh, I forget what it was, like tool steel or something. But anyway, they were trying to raise all this American investment capital. And the one guy was like, wait a minute, I've heard of these people before. It's the whole thing's a house of cards. Don't do it. And he actually jumped on a plane. It's like, I want to see this factory, you know, that you guys have running, making all this tool steel. I want to go look at it and see it. And they basically, it looks like they just hired a bunch of people to walk around the plant in brightly colored coveralls, because the plant looked brand new. But then the guy noticed, like, he was hearing this sound, and they were walking around the plant. And you got to be real careful over there. You can't go over there and demand answers and shit, because the government monitors will come throw you in jail. But yeah, what had happened was they had a bunch of, they said they were having a down day for some reason. And what they did is they bought this warehouse, put a bunch of machining equipment in it, hired people to walk around in brightly colored coveralls, and they had a generator running out back to keep the lights on. That's what he was hearing, because this generator was like being flogged to death trying to run all these fluorescent lights. And he was like, yeah, okay, thanks for showing me this. Yeah, I just wanted to know. And he went back and told the other people, it's like, it's another Potemkin village. Don't invest in it. It's fucking, it's a lie. It was a storage warehouse where they put a bunch of equipment in, didn't even plug it in, had some lights on, and hired some extras from the town to come in and act like they were, you know, walking around doing stuff. I think all the spec sheets and stuff were written in German too. He just noticed things but didn't say anything, like, oh yeah, that's great. Everything's just a
Those
weird...
crafty German Chinese bastards.
Yeah. Yeah, all these Chinese people in this remote village are all fluent in German, which actually wouldn't surprise me. I could see, like, when I found out that Sacha Baron Cohen has all his legal work done out of India, because there's just people in India that are experts, like, in American law. Like, they have law degrees in American law, and you can just farm shit out to them, because whenever he writes contracts or gets arrested for pulling his stunts or whatever, he goes to these guys because they've got like 500 fucking lawyers. Like, they can figure it just by weight of numbers. They can figure shit out. Like, oh yeah, you can get out of this way, or do shit that way. And it's all some group out of India, and it's not like in, you know, Delhi or someplace you've heard of. It's in the middle of nowhere. But for some reason, they have all these people that got law degrees in American law, not in Indian law, American law. That's the weirdest thing. I think he was on Mark Maron talking about that. Even Mark Maron stopped him. He's like, wait a minute, why are you calling guys in India for legal advice? He's like, oh, it's 500 people.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a lot cheaper.
I don't know if it's just if it's cheaper, that might be part of it, but a lot of it is just if you have that many eyes on it, chances of something slipping through are pretty slim.
Honestly, I mean, it comes with the fact that, I mean, in India, you're dealing with a lot more people, and yes, there's a lot of American business interest there too, so I'm sure they see some contracts from that aspect. But yes, an American law firm, you might have a lot of aides and underlings, but you don't have that many lawyers, because lawyers are fucking expensive to hire and keep on. Whereas India, it's like people like janitors make nothing, and they live in a metal shack next to the building. And then, like, the CEO or the telemarketers make just barely enough to live in a house altogether. So, I mean, lawyers must, you know, make enough to own their own house, but still not that much compared to everybody else. So.
Well, they do a lot of stuff on spec over there, too.
What? Well,
So if
they
you find people that's like, can you program this for me? Yeah, how much? $500? Shit, okay. What would cost $50,000 here? It's like they'll do it for $500 or $600.
I was just listening to a podcast, and they watched that that new show on Netflix, The Stairs. I think it's called The Stairs.
Yeah,
Okay.
the documentary about that guy killing his wife.
Which I guess it was actually just a French documentary, but then they just turned it into a Netflix show or something.
Okay.
And I haven't seen it yet, but they were talking about how, like, while watching that show, they learned how, like, why does it cost so much to have a trial? Like, what do you is all that money going to the lawyer? And then, like, no, it's like, you know, we got to hire a focus group because, like, our expert we're gonna get, like, we need to test them with a focus group, and, like just all like, we need to get this tested with our expert, and like all this stuff. It's like, and all these tests and all the things is like all this adds up into lots and lots and lots of money.
Well, those experts you see at trials, I didn't realize this till I forget. I was reading a book about, like, a nonfiction book. That's their living. Like, they're just on call, like, you know, whatever part of the country they live in. It's like you got the New York experts, the West Coast experts, the Midwest experts on any subject. These guys are for hire. They'll come in and, you know, and some of them aren't even qualified. They just put on a good show and they went to some diploma mill, and it would be like me, like, paying for an online degree and saying I'm an expert in the occult or some nonsense like that. And, you know, as long as I dressed good and used complete sentences, it's like, this guy's an expert, jury. You have to listen to him, you know, because expert witnesses can't be, what is it? You can't, you can offer counter testimony, but you can't, like, discredit them.
Yeah.
You can discredit some of the stuff there's some weird, I forget, it was some weird minutia. It's like, oh, okay. But these guys are just roving bands of experts. I was going to say experts. Some of them are experts, but some of them are. Oh, they had this one DNA guy that really fucked a lot of people over until they figured out. It's like, this guy never graduated high school. He doesn't know anything about DNA, but he knew the terms. He could mix and match enough shit together that he fooled lawyers. And, you know, shit. I don't know if he fooled them. He told them what they wanted to hear, and they, yeah. So,
And nobody
yeah.
asks questions because nobody's a DNA expert in a fucking court.
Yeah.
Also, I thought the interesting in listening to that podcast is the kind of the opinion they had about the case. They're like, oh yeah, he killed her, but they should. But after watching, it was like, they should have found him not guilty.
Even though we know he killed her, the defense did a great job.
Yeah, well, like, no, like they said, like, no, I'm pretty sure, like, everything, there's too many weird things around it. It's like, there's, like, the easiest explanation is that he killed her, but, like, no, like, they said, like, the defense had brought up enough doubt around everything that they're like, yeah, if I was in that jury, I would have to have found him not guilty just because of the doubt they raised. Because that's all you have to do. You just have to raise enough doubt that the prosecution, like, can't prove that he did it, then you're fine. Yeah.
Oh yeah. What was the thing I heard about? I think I heard this from my lawyer. If you can figure out which one of the jurors don't want to be there really bad, it's like you go for a hung jury every time. You just make eye contact with the right people, kind of feel them out, like, oh, this guy's a redneck, I'm going to appeal to this, or that guy hates women, I'm going to appeal to that. And yeah, it's I've heard some pretty nasty stuff. It's like, yeah, it's all about winning. It's not about right or wrong.
Well, that's what was interesting. Like well, I guess I'll just spoil. Are you guys gonna watch it or?
No, I wasn't.
Okay, because like they actually lost the case. Like he was found guilty.
Yeah.
But then one of the prosecution's experts was like discredited.
Uh-huh.
Or I guess not their expert. Well, some guy, whatever, like a blood test guy, or I can't remember whatever the guy was. They found out like he had basically, like forged the science or whatever.
Was he a blood spatter expert?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. That's all gone though. But yeah.
So because he was involved in that case, like it all got reviewed, and I forget what I forget forget the term. It's like some kind of weird, almost Latin term, where it's basically as long as he just like wrote on paper, it's like, yeah, I did it. He will be released. So
An Alford plea, is it?
yeah, that's it.
Okay, yeah.
So basically, he said he admitted, like on paper, basically admitted his guilt, and he was let go.
Well, you know why the state will let them go if they do that, right? Because they did that. Remember those kids, the West Texas 3 or whatever, where they found those kids murdered, and they thought these guys were Satanists, and they basically sentenced them to death, and then it was the one that Johnny Depp and all those, they had all those documentaries about it.
Yeah.
But they essentially could prove that they weren't guilty, but they would have had to stay in prison another 5 years or whatever. And these guys were like, one of them was going to die if he stayed in prison. He just, like, it was affecting his health so badly to be there. So they did this Alford plea, and they were asking the prosecution, it's like, wait a minute, you said these guys were guilty, you convicted them, and now you're letting them leave. And he pretty much said, yeah, this means they can't sue us for wrongful prosecution. It's like, oh, wow. All right, you're okay with that? What about these dead kids? Oh, fuck it. Next. But it's a weird system. I mean, the only alternative is like totalitarians or witch trials, or it's. But yeah, some of the shit you hear about is like, what the fuck?
No, there's a news story today about this guy in Tama that was molesting an 8-year-old kid. He was supposed to be sentenced to jail, but instead he got 5 years of house arrest or whatever. And it's like, yeah, that's gonna make sure he doesn't molest any more kids. Just put him in the same old house he molested the other kid in.
If I go to jail, I'll be molested.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll have victims' rights for pedophiles. It's like, we don't want the pedophiles to be victimized. And yes, we do.
There was a supposedly real news story. I never found anything to discredit it, but it didn't say if it was recent or not. But a rapist that was attempting a rape on a woman and was stopped by a gay man that then raped him. And it was like, that can't be real.
That sounds like a bad comic book.
Rape man.
But the only other like weird headline of the week was did you guys hear about the grandma that fought with a bobcat the other day?
Oh, didn't she beat it to death?
She strangled it to death in her driveway in silence. In silence, because her 5-year-old granddaughter was taking a nap and she didn't want to disturb her. So she was putting a bumper sticker on her car that read, "Women that obey don't make history." And so then the rabid bobcat jumped at her face. She caught it in midair, breaking several fingers, and thus strangled to death in silence.
Was it really rabid?
Yeah, it was rabid. They tested it. They tested it for rabies after, because she was only treated for several broken fingers. So it was like, because I've heard of the story from like Seth Meyers' show or whatever. He's like, this is the new story we need right now, because you might say your grandma loves you because she made you cookies. My grandma loves me because she silently killed a bobcat while I was napping, so she wouldn't disturb me. It's like this lady is badass. She just fucking like choked out a fucking, because he was like, this is, and then he showed a picture of a house cat, like, that's not a bobcat, and then he showed a picture of like a lot bigger animals, like, this is a bobcat. This thing will fuck you up. And there's like an old lady stared down death in the face and strangled the life out of this thing. And it was like, yeah, that's pretty cool.
That is kind of hardcore. I like that it was like the silence part of it. It's like just the story that an old woman strangled a bobcat to death. That's cool enough. The silence, it kind of makes it like it's like black and white film, I don't know, vibe to it.
Just the bobcat's life's going out slowly, and she's just staring dead into its eyes. And all these hears is kind of this rustle, this light rustle.
It's like your grandma's
most disturbing art piece ever.
She can feel the vibration as it tries to growl, and it's. I came up with a movie title for like a new like revenge movie.
Okay.
Prevenge.
Nothing has happened to me yet, but prevenge.
He's righting the wrongs that never happened.
Righting the wrongs that only happened in my head.
Oh, did you guys? I was bored at work because it was slow as fuck this week. But I was on Reddit just fucking scrolling through, and I found like this revenge thread, and this one guy fucking posted like his. It was like, I think the post or question was like, what's the worst thing you've done for revenge for somebody cheating on you, like an ex or whatever, or just cheating you out of money? And he was like, well, I found out my girlfriend was seeing this other guy, and it was around Valentine's Day, so I made this romantic dinner reservation, and then I showed up at her apartment with her bag of stuff from my apartment already packed, and she was taking a shower, so I quickly jizzed in her face cream and then mixed it in, and then I put her bag and suitcase back, and then I made her give me a deep throat blowjob, and then I took her to the romantic restaurant and played off things nice and had this great conversation and brought up all these great memories we had and how we wanted to get married, and then we walked by the lake it was by, and then there's fireworks going off, and then I proposed to her and then threw the ring in the lake and told her it was off, and I changed the numbers in the phone from the guy she was cheating on and deleted my number. And I fake texted her. The other guy found out he didn't want anything to do with her anymore, and like all this other shit. And then I sold everything else online for money and went on vacation for myself and shit. And it was just like, wow, that's a weird fucking story. Like,
so good it never happened.
That was exactly my thought. It was like, really?
The real thing that happened in the story was he just in the face. Everything else was just. He did manage to work up a raid tank. Probably why she's cheating on you, because you're a fucking lunatic. You're mad as hell, and you're at her apartment. It's like, I'm gonna whack off into her face. Like, yeah, that follows a pattern.
Yeah, because like a lot of the revenge stories, like half are like, hey, my boss is a fucking asshole, or hey, this person's a fucking dick. And the other ones are just like people doing this grandiose revenge on the cheating exes and shit. And it's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure like half this shit never happened, or you're not the amazing person you painted yourself as being, or shit like that. So yeah, it's.
Yeah, there's one I read, or there's a malicious compliance one I read that seemed like that probably happened. Because then there's a bunch of comments in the thread about like other people doing similar things. So it's like, oh man, people are awful. It was like, so this guy, I think he worked for a law firm, or I can't remember what the hell it was, but he had to fax them a letter, I think it was like a debtor's thing, and like they had to like confirm that they got the letter, and so basically like, yeah, you fax it, and then like you call them up, and they basically like, yeah, we never got it. So the thing was like 3 pages long, and he put it in the fax machine, and there's like, and he taped all the letters together. So like end to end, and then when the first one came out of the fax machine, he taped it to the back one, and so it just kept sending it in a loop.
Oh, okay.
So he sent it, so like basically like their fax machine ran out of paper, and they called up, and so they called up, they're fucking pissed. And it's like, what the fuck did you just send me? He's like, so do you confirm you got the letter?
Okay, that I can see.
And then like in the comments below, it's like, yeah, I used to do that to like churches I didn't like. I just take 3 black pieces of paper, put it in a loop, and their ink would be gone by the end of the day.
I'd be weirded out just getting a black fax. I'd be like, see? Yeah, I know some people that have done some crazy shit. So crazy I won't talk about it. But I know people, not elaborate shit, and not even shit that they were guaranteed of getting away with, but they did it. And it's like, oh, fuck, how are you not in prison? And, it's, you know, I mean, nobody's died. Nobody died. But yeah, I know some people have done some crazy shit. And it's all over sex and stuff. It's, you know. Money I could understand, but even then it's like, that's a hell of a risk, and don't you have to register those when you buy them, like shit like that? It's like, where did you get a hold of that, and how did that occur to you? But Yeah, I know people have done, but usually people do really for wild shit don't talk about it. To like write it on a Reddit post, like this is random. But let's see, what are the things? Well, the people up the street when their house got repoed, they quick-created the plumbing. I thought that was pretty crazy. Just turned off the. How did they do it?
What is it?
Quickcrete concrete.
Oh, okay.
But they mixed up concrete and poured it in all their drains. Like filled it to the fucking rim, like kept pouring concrete in. And then they took because some of these houses like there were levels of houses around here. You had the real fancy elevation, and then you had the one more like mine where it was just, kind of a regular elevation. But some of them had like really nice fireplaces with surrounds. They took sledgehammers to that, just tore the place apart.
Rip all the copper out of the walls and.
No, they didn't do that.
That's what they do around here.
Well, because they wanted, because the only reason I know about it is the cops came knocking on my door. It's like, hey, do you know who lives down here? I said, oh, that house has been repoed for months. Why? And they're basically like, could you come with us? Like they wanted to show me. So we were walking around the house.
We need a witness. Okay, officer, what the fuck are you doing?
I was walking around the house with the cops, and well, the reason they came and asked me is because I was mowing the lawn, because the lawn just looked like shit. Because it was growing up like 20 feet high. So I'd been over there mowing the lawn for a while. And so everyone pointed him in my direction. It's like the guy down the street rides his mower down here and mows the lawn. And yeah, we were walking around because what happened was somebody finally broke out the sliding door. Like somebody pitched a rock through it. And somebody called the cops and for some reason, they're like, yeah, go see him. We were walking around inside the house and you could see like the sink just half full of fucking solid concrete, and like the shower, you could just look down and there's just concrete coming out of the. And when the bank came and rehabbed that house, they practically had to rebuild the fucking house. There's people living there now. I've been living there for years, but these cops couldn't believe it. It's like, do you think someone broke in here and did this? I said, no. So because that back window wasn't busted out until the day ago or whenever they called you. So these are probably the people that had the house foreclosed. Like, do you know who they are? And I fucking work with the guy, and I was like, no, I don't know who it is. Because the guy worked with me. I was like, yeah, I don't know. But I did go and ask him about it at work. I was like, hey, I got a tour of your house by the county sheriff the other day. He's like, yeah, what happened? I said, oh, there's concrete in all the drains. Someone busted this around. He's like, man, there's fucking nasty people out there. That's all he said. It's like, yeah, they're going to spend like $40,000 just getting that house back up to spec. Because they had this plumbing company over there. I mean, there's like 3 plumbing vans full of pipe and shit. you could hear them in there. They were just jackhammering. Because those houses, like mine has a basement where you can access all the plumbing underneath. But those houses are just built on like the drain ports and everything, they're just pipes laid in a cement slab. There's no basement under those places. So they have to jackhammer out the cement and stuff, put new pipes in, pour cement. It was a fucking nightmare. I just couldn't believe it. Concrete in the toilet bowls, everything. Like they even filled the back. Because I was looking in the back, I lifted it up, and the cop was like, yeah, don't touch it. You don't want your fingerprints on it. And I was like, fuck, they did an upper decker with this concrete. He's like, what? He came in there, we lifted it off. It's like, holy shit. I was like, I've never seen anything like this.
Well, I mean, it's like pretty much impossible to prove unless somebody's got fucking video footage of them doing it or some shit, or they admit to it for somebody. I mean, that's.
Well, the only reason I know about it is because I was the dumbass that was mowing their lawn. Everyone pointed in my direction. That guy's mowing their lawn. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna mow their lawn for 6 months and chuck a rock through their window. That's my game. I'm gonna throw you off the trail.
Oh, he's mowing the lawn. Such a nice guy. It's like, oh no, he's just walking in the house and slowly destroying it every day. He mowed the lawn.
Well, my question is, how come either the city or the bank didn't pay somebody to mow it? Because around here, if you're an abandoned house from either a crime or a repo, the city either comes and does it and charges you later, or the bank responsible for the repo property gets somebody to do it.
Well, dude, we're talking 2008, 2010 time frame when like every other house around me was foreclosed on. It was like me and the next door neighbor and the lady across the street. We were the last one standing for a while.
So
Yeah, there. I mean, this was when houses used to burst into flames around here because they'd shut all the power off and the basement would flood. Because everything has all the ones with a basement here, they all have sump pumps and shit.
Yeah.
And then they go to flick the power back on because they're going to have guys go in there and rehab the houses. You know, and the walls and shit catch on fire. We just stand outside and watch a house. There's like, no, there's not anymore. There used to be a bunch of empty lots here from where they burnt down, but they rebuilt them. But yeah, the time frame I'm talking about, like no one knew any. You could have just fucking walked into one of these houses, had the power turned on, and they wouldn't say anything. I knew people live around me didn't make a house payment for 4 years. They just kept living in them, and the bank put up with it because they're like, well, at least Mother Nature's not going to take it.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's kind of the thing, though. I mean, I obviously didn't have to worry about that because at the time I wasn't looking for a house or anything like that. I know the housing market used to be fucking, I mean, actually pretty much about what it is now. People are, I mean, it's kind of climbing back to what it was before the crash and shit.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's not the same level of predatory lending and outrageous fucking bullshit stacked on top
That
of
we
loans.
know of?
Well, yes, that we know of. Well, I mean, there's no, like, fucking 80% fucking interest rate on somebody's fucking house for some reason. There's no, you know, I mean, I'm sure there's still, like, the fucking huge, because car loans are really bad now, and so is student loan predatory lending and shit, but I know they finally, how many months ago did they finally, like, deregulate the fucking banks again? Because
It's a couple months, yeah.
That was Trump's brilliant idea. Like, they learned their lesson. Like, no, they didn't. Like,
I believe them.
Not if they know you're going to fucking bail them out again. They don't.
Well, what is the fucking, was it the, I can't, maybe I'm getting it wrong. Didn't they hire one of the Solomon Brother guys to over in, fucking...
I think you're right, but I can't think of who it was. No, it was one of the guys.
Or is his name just Solomon? I could.
Yeah, it was one of the guys that worked at one of the ones that really collapsed spectacularly and didn't come back, like Bear Stearns or something.
Yeah.
One of those guys. It's like, where'd you find him? Is he over his prison time? Oh yeah, no one went to prison over that. I forgot.
Except for one.
One guy.
Yeah, what was it? It was like one Arab dude.
Yeah.
Went to prison for that. And I can't even remember why. I mean, racism, but other than that.
Just like what was the bank? There was a bank in New York, I think it was New York, that was created run by, and owned by Chinese people. And when the housing market collapsed, they had made some of those loans. They had made 24 of them. Some of those banks made over 100,000 of those. These people almost lost everything defending themselves because they're all Chinese. These people almost lost their bank, their livelihood, everything because they vectored in on them. It's like, what about Bank of America? Nope, it's all white guys. We don't say nothing to them. How can we? I can't go to the country club and look at these guys in the face and prosecute them. Come on, you got to see my here. Yeah, what was that called? The ABC Bank? I don't know. I watched a thing on Frontline about it, and I was like, really? They went after these guys? Because it was literally a dad, a mom, and his 2 daughters that ran this bank. And they ran it because Chinese people who come to America, they don't trust banks. It's a weird concept to them. So these people help basically immigrants get business loans and stuff. That was 99% of their business. But they had one guy came in.
You can have
a
laundromat and your own restaurant.
Yes, that's exactly what they did. Because they said these people were just straight off the boat. That's what the one gal said. And she goes, they'd come up to our bank with like pillowcases full of money. It's like, well, no, you don't do it this way.
I thought we laundered the money.
Yeah. They were just basically a bank to help. They seemed like they were a bank for Chinese people who didn't trust banks, and they were there to help them out. But yeah, they got investigated, and they didn't even have to be bailed out because they could cover the bad loans. Like they didn't they weren't a zombie bank or anything, but yeah, they got prosecuted. But nobody else did. I think there was one of 3 banks in the whole fucking state of New York that they brought charges against. It's like, wow, it's alive and well.
Yeah, I like how Wells Fargo not only participated in the predatory lending crisis, but then after that continued to still fuck over their customers in new and different ways by signing up for credit cards they didn't want or more loans they didn't want and keeping the money. And then pretending the loans didn't exist, the credit cards didn't exist to their customers.
And all those weird fees you'd get, like they finally got in trouble for that, but like not really. Like,
Well,
here's $6 billion. We're a bank. Who gives a shit?
well, yeah, they made something like what $8 or $10 billion off of it. Their fine was like $500 million. It's like, oh no, a net profit of 7.5 billion. We learned our lesson. I'm sorry. Like, yeah,
they're just sitting up there, just throwing a baseball around the room. Probably one that Babe Ruth hit. And they're just like, yeah, Bill, we really got in a lot of trouble for this. We made $7.5 billion. I'm going to call this a win. They just got in trouble for it again.
Who are we going to fire for this? I don't know. Let's get the Melrose kid. Let's give him a sudden promotion and fire him.
That's the thing. When they talked about, when the news story broke, like, oh, are you going to fire people for this? And like, well, we're going to investigate. And then it's like, and then later I think they made a press release like, we've gotten rid of the people responsible. It's like, so you've gotten rid of nobody, because that's what you say when you fired nobody, because nobody can track anything. It's like, for all you know, Tom Harrison, they got fired last week from being a teller in like Bumblefuck, Michigan, is the one responsible for it all, or some fucking bullshit. Like,
yeah, we got rid of the guy in our consumer loan division. It's like, wait a minute, didn't they catch him jacking off in front of his secretary? No, well, they did that too, but really it was the fraud. It's like, oh, okay.
The child porn ring didn't help either.
Yeah.
But it was really
a lot of questionable moral things going on.
A lot of overlap and bad things, but
yeah. Let's not pile on.
Plus, doing 2-for-1 pizza days, he always took more pizza than everybody else.
Yeah, fuck that guy.
Fuck him. Justice was done. Praise the Lord.
It's like, yeah, I know why people don't trust banks, and I don't really trust banks either, but at the same time...
What do you mean, don't trust banks? You have your money in a bank, right?
What the hell is the other option?
Of course, yes.
Like,
well, I mean, people used to bury their goddamn money and put it in the mattress. Like, you trust a bank. Just the least you have to.
Well, I trust a small bank that I think will least likely to fuck me over.
Credit unions are a little different. Of course, they don't really make... Or they do make loans, but... the rules are different.
Well, they're not into speculating money that their people.
Yeah, no, they don't invest your money. I know that. So I was thinking about refining my home through my credit union, but it's like a weird loan. It's a home loan.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, when the banking crisis happened, like, yeah, credit unions like popped up all over the place. Like, all of a sudden, I was like, you have all these constructions, like all new construction here, mini malls and credit unions. That's all that happened in the last 10 years.
Yep.
And that's churches, still more churches.
That's why I don't think I've ever had a bank. I think I've always had a credit union, but then again, I don't have any money, and
I've had both. I think I kind of still have both. I've always had like 2 banks.
No, I only have 1.
Technically, I have 2 only because my mortgage is Wells Fargo and then everything else is Linear Credit Union. So I should probably look into actually switching over anyway, because since Wells Fargo keeps fucking people over left and right, still probably not a good thing to keep busy.
Yeah, but it's for your benefit.
We're a new Wells Fargo.
Those other customers can go fuck themselves.
Did you hear their fucking radio ad or whatever? Like they've been putting on for like the last 6 months. Where it's like, Wells Fargo, we were founded in blah, blah, whatever time, and we were dedicated to our customers, and we're sorry we lost track of that, but we refounded in 2018 or some bullshit. I'm like, yeah, whatever. It's like you and a drug addict claim you're not going to go on fucking coke again after being on a binge for 40 years. Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I had Wells Fargo for for my first job, and it was just like terrible. Because it's like, I gave them money, and it was like hard to just get money from them without like giving them money for me getting money. Like even to like just walk into the teller and like extracting money, like that was, somehow there was a fee associated with that somehow. It's like, what the fuck is this shit? So never again.
You want to withdraw $20? There'll be a $5 charge for that.
Yeah, that's a lot of, especially. I know that is it Yum brand that owns like pizza at KFC and Long John, stuff shit like that. They have something. Even when I worked for them years ago, you had two options to getting paid. You could automatically put it in your bank account and there would be a fee associated with that, or you could get a prepaid debit card and there would be a fee associated with that every time you used it. Check balance, take money out, transfer money, pay it, use the card at all. There'd be a flat fee. I think it was like $5 for checking balance and transferring in. It was up to like $20 for certain shit. And I'm like, motherfucker, you only pay me $250 every couple weeks. I don't see how $20 a time for me using this goddamn thing makes any sense. But, you know, it's like, I thought you were supposed to get paid money for working here, not fucking like, we'll give you a little bit of money, but really this is just a holding place for our money.
I mean, you get free food here, right?
You get to steal from the cash register every so often. So.
No, I didn't have access to the cash register. Plus, I wouldn't have done that anyway. But yeah, it's.
I wouldn't do the obvious thing, but I'd like steal everything else. It's like, yeah, I won't fuck with the money, but however, there's no like silverware left or stainless steel pots that you can recycle for huge money. Bits of copper.
My friend deals drugs in the bathroom, and I get a cut.
I can steal their secrets. Their breadstick sauce and their pizza sauce is the same, except more water is added to one than the other. In the mop sink in the back, in a giant 10-gallon bucket. The pan pizza crust has 3 different kinds of grease: aerosol, liquid, and fucking stick added to it at one point or another. All their shit's frozen and defrosted, which is pretty much not really a shocker anymore. And yeah, a lot of their fucking shit's weird.
Yeah, at least back then you could say it was food. Now you don't know what the fuck you're eating.
No, not really. I don't think I've had pizza really on a regular basis for a long time. It's really.
They all closed around here. There's like one left 5 miles from me.
Is anything taking its place or what?
Yeah, all the other, well, the 1,000 other pizza franchises that dominate Michigan.
Oh yeah, who's that?
Well, Domino's was created in this town.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
but
Domino's kind of like made a comeback like a couple of years ago.
Yeah, well, they got a new CEO, and
then like Little Caesars started popping up again. Like they were just dead. Now
that's another Detroit started franchise. What's the big one around here?
Papa John's.
Well, we got Domino's, Cottage Inn. We have Aubrey's, which is local, but it's really good. I mean, there's so many pizza places in this part of Michigan. I think Pizza Hut just gave up because it's like, well, we can't compete with all that shit. Then we had a few Papa John's. That's over with now.
Racism. Yeah, because Jeff on the Giant Bombcast, he works in San Francisco, but he like drives an hour to where he lives. I think he lives in Sonoma.
Okay.
Basically, even in San Francisco, like there's just like no Pizza Huts, and where he lives, there's like no Pizza Huts. I think he says there's like one Domino's that will deliver to his house, and that's like the only pizza he has, in like 3-hour drive. Well, he doesn't drive 3 hours, but like a 3-hour, 3 mile or whatever, 3-hour radius, however you draw that. There's like no like fast food like chain pizza.
No, there's just not a lot.
Well, there probably is, but it's always terrible.
Yeah.
Because I always talk about like stuff for, they go to places for lunch and they always go to like some, because they were talking about like the Subway they used to go to, it's gone now, but they said there's like another Subway that's just like a block away. But it's like, no, that one sucks. We're not going to that Subway.
It's a terrible one. Yeah, that's the other thing. Like, there's a Subway right near my house. It's okay, but then you drive a mile further out, and there's like, Jersey Mike's. There's a few different ones now. Like, it just seems like everything. There's just such a multiplicity of it that the big stuff. I mean, McDonald's is ubiquitous. Like, that's everywhere.
But here we got like 2 of everything. So
yeah.
the only thing that didn't work out here was Sonics. Like they came in and then they left like 5 years later.
Well, that and Ruby Tuesdays, and that was more of a sit-down chain.
Yeah. What?
Bebop's didn't last year either, but I think that's more local. I don't think that's really...
What's there now? For the
It's a dentist office now.
Oh, that's right.
If you ever wanted a weird tie into a business, like it's like what once was basically a rip-off Applebee's is now a dentist practice, which is
My favorite thing I saw in Cedar Rapids was the City Hall at the mall.
Oh, yeah, that's gone now. That whole mall's bulldozed.
Oh, is okay. So I know. Yeah, they had all the city like service functions. They had an annex at your mall. I was like, this is weird.
Well, that's because the flood.
Yeah, that was
Oh, okay.
They basically moved all the city services inside the mall
Oh,
because
I
nobody
thought
was
that-
using it.
Oh, I just thought they were trying to keep the mall alive, like the city.
Well, I think by the time you got there wasn't really a reason for them to like stay there. But like, I guess that the rent was probably just cheap enough. It's like, hey, we should just keep this shit.
I mean,
Well, keep the lights on.
They
but
all
the-
either move back to brand new buildings or brand new buildings in the same floodplain they got flooded out of before. So, I mean,
Yeah, it always makes sense.
Well, they built that whole new like fucking thing there that looks like it's a goddamn glass building that blogs in like Czechoslovakia or some shit.
so you're
like
talking about the federal courthouse?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know why the fuck that's there. It's right next to the goddamn Cedar River, and as soon as that thing like spills its bank, that's exactly what it's going for. And I think it even has like a parking garage like near and under it and shit. So it's we have weird decisions we made in Cedar Rapids. Like we have Mays Island, which is in the middle of the Cedar River between the 2 banks in Cedar Rapids.
yeah,
Half the Mays Island is an underground parking garage in the middle of a fucking river.
that's ballsy.
Like I don't know how that makes any sense.
That's an interesting choice.
it's like it's like an underground subway.
And it's also like our jail and courthouse and shit like that, which doesn't really make a lot of sense either when you think about it.
I think there's only 2 cities in the world that have their
Like courthouse on a river. Or
yeah,
something.
or on an
Yeah.
island. I think the other one's in France somewhere.
So we ripped off France's flag for our state flag, and then we ripped off their idea for a courthouse in the middle of the river.
Well, your state capital is called Des Moines, and then you've got Dubuque, and you got a lot of French stuff there.
Yeah.
But oddly, no French restaurants and no French anything else. We're a lot of Slovaks and Polish people and just German. I don't think we have a lot.
Lots of hearty food.
Yeah, we're definitely not skinny people.
Lots of animal meat ground up and shoved into a casing.
But no, I mean, otherwise, shit, Cedar Rapids, we don't got a lot of stuff going on as far as others. I mean, that mall you're talking about that had all the government building stuff, like, most of that's bulldozed now because they're making a big pedestrian mall over there to try and save it.
Yeah,
it's
like
like the 6th time they've had a plan to save that place, so who knows?
Well, yeah, nobody's saving it. It's just
Yeah,
it's just now it's a place for there's like 6 different mini malls inside that place where there was a mall.
Oh, just dying in different ways.
Yeah.
Or they're doing. I think they just do that now. Like just have these mini malls because it's like less. It's just less cost for like heating and easier to like uproot a business and put a new one in.
Yeah, we have so many now. I don't know how the hell we're gonna fill all of them. Most of the ones we have now, they're especially the newer ones, are half full because the rent's so goddamn high. Nobody wants to pay it. And then also at the same time, there's you can go throw a rock and be another strip mall.
I think all those ones are full.
There's ones over by like Peck's Flower Shop that got demolished. That's all gonna be strip malls now. Those are half full, and there's stuff on the west side that is half full, but it's usually the older stuff that nobody wants to be in anymore. So I don't know.
Yeah, the guys where I get my models and stuff, like he's downtown Ypsilanti, and he was looking when he was scouting locations to put his store. He was talking about the ones up by me, and some of those places are $5,000-$6,000 a month in rent just to be in a strip mall. It's like, in a township, like not. I mean, you're off a freeway, but it's not like that big. And like, Jesus Christ, what kind of over? You'd have to have a lot of turnover there, and a lot of them are little specialized shops too.
Yeah.
Just like we got something called the Bead Gallery that's been there forever, and it's those bracelets that women like to make and crimp up, and with the polished stones. and
Men
all.
can't make bracelets.
Well, they could, but yeah, like that place is. We've always, me and my friends used to speculate. It's like, so what drug cartel is that a money laundering front for? Because how many fucking beads are you selling to pay? And they've got like a double front. They're like 2 stores. It's not like the single front. It's like, oh, they're paying $10,000-$15,000 a month to be there. What are they? They can't be turning that many beads.
Yeah, either it's a front or they have some sort of secret online business that does like most of their business or something.
It's gotta be. I've never even stepped foot in there.
Yeah, because shit, the hobby store I go to, it's not really in a bad part of town, but it's in a part of town where somebody, like, people walk in all the time. It's like, I never knew this was here. It's like, this business has been operating for 12 years now. Like, it's just like, I asked him how much he pays, and it's like, I pay full utilities, I repair everything, and I still pay like $2,500 a month just to be here in this like little fucking shitty corner shop. And it's like, yeah, moving anywhere like the new strip malls in our newer areas, yeah, $5-6 grand a month. It's fucking ridiculous. It's just like what? How many square feet is a $6,000 a month one? Like 500, 600 maybe.
Maybe it's like one of those stores where like it's like they're just fucking in the red until Christmas comes around.
Yeah.
The bead store, I don't know if like, like,
and it's not a franchise. It's like it's home brew. It's like the Whitaker Road Bead Gallery or something. It's like, who has this much fucking disposable income that's keeping this place afloat?
I just come up with an acronym that's spelled anal and put it in get a lot more customers into the shop, but just disappointed ones.
The Anna, Natalie, Ashley, Lisa Bead Store.
Sell decorative beads and Benoit beads. Where are the Chinese beads? Oh, step behind this curtain. Really? Marble? That's great. Polished marble.
This one's just a string of fists.
Just a bunch of fists back to back on a string.
I just want to see the anal bead thing that says "FU" on every, like just "fuck you" spelled out on like every ball.
I want the rage balls, the ones with the bumpy ones. Each one has a different bumpy, uncomfortable texture.
But no, I mean, I talked to the guy that runs my hobby shop, and he keeps like saying, because people keep bugging him to expand the shop because anytime it's busy in there, like there's no room for anything, and that's most of the time. And it's like, well, you know, if you want to buy the space next to us too, where the alcoholics meet twice a day or whatever, you know, that's another couple thousand or whatever. And he was like, well, we need to expand revenue by this much or whatever, but like he can have an online business, he could sell a lot more, but he just doesn't do it because he doesn't want to put the headache and time into it, I guess. He just doesn't want to do the inventory and all the logging and shit like that. So
does he have any employees, or is it just him?
He has like 3 part-time employees. Because he opens most days, but he doesn't close every day. It's mostly the 3 other people that do. But they mostly get paid store credit.
So it's slavery.
Basically.
I sold my soul to the company store.
Sold my soul to the hobby store.
Not hard to do. I could see it.
I mean, I guess if that's their part-time job and they have another job that they do.
Well, see, that's the thing. There's one guy that's like married. He does commission painting, and he has another full-time job or whatever, and that's kind of just his way to like make money to buy models and paint and stuff like that. And then there's the other guy.
That's probably good for networking too, to get commission paintings. Or does he have an online commission stuff?
He has a business card. He's working on a website. And he's pretty good. I've talked to him a couple times. He has pretty good ideas about stuff. There's another
Hey,
guy
can you give me a sample for the exposure?
There's another guy that works there and older. He's actually going to move to Missouri in the next couple of years, open his own gaming shop down there. He's kind of doing it for the experience / like money to do it. And then the other guy is just a young guy that just does part-time work and does nothing else besides day drink and work there.
Day drinking models, it's the dream.
Oh, yeah.
He's kind of fun to talk to, and he's kind of a cool guy, but sometimes he's annoying. It just depends on your perspective, I guess.
Yeah, I like the guys who there's no up and out. beyond. It's like, how can I work intoxication into my weekly routine? And you know these guys, as soon as you meet them, you're like, oh boy, it's a great life.
Well, I don't know if that's him as a person necessarily, or just that he's still in his early 20s and he just like.
Oh, okay.
Like
I thought you was thinking this like a guy in his 40s. Like,
no, I mean the other two guys are guys in their 40s or 50s and stuff like that, but he's like 23, I think. I mean, he has
He's
like
just figuring it out then.
he plays like pool league and gets drunk during that, and he like just stays up like late at night. Because the owner's pretty cool about like, hey, if one of his employees wants to have a game late at night, just let it go and then close up shop. He'll let him do it. So it's nice. It's nice that way, but he does that so much. I played a couple times with him in team tournaments where it's like, he's like, I haven't been asleep for 18 hours or whatever. It's like, I've been up for a long time. It's like, I didn't go to sleep last night. I'm like, why? Well, I had to set up. I'm like, you could have asked somebody to help you, and then he could have got like a 4-hour nap. Or what? It's like, it's okay, I'm good. And then he doesn't remember how to add 2 plus 2 together. It's like, I think you need to take a nap.
This is working.
So, it's, I don't know. There's not really many good hobby stores in town. There's like 3 altogether, but there's only one that I care to go to because the rest they're kind of like more what you have, where it's like actual like different models and like model railroads and airplanes and like model kits. Mine's just like mostly like board games, tabletop gaming, war gaming stuff. So
Well, this, John's expanded because he's just models and any component you could imagine to build a model. I mean, anything you could want. Like, I've never seen a product on YouTube. It's like, yeah, we got that. It's insane. It's like everything. But his Games Workshop section's expanding. That and what's his biggest? Because that's one of his biggest things now. And then what's the other thing? The robot models.
Oh, Gundam.
Yeah, all the lonely
Gunpla.
all the lonely Asian college kids from U of M will come in with apparently just open-ended expense accounts, and it's like, yeah, I want this one and that one. Did you get this one for me? Yeah, we got that for you. And they'll lay like 12 of these fucking things on the table. It's like $600. Here you go. It's like, holy shit.
And at some point,
what?
At some
God.
At some point, he's like, it would cost half of this if somebody just play with your penis, right?
Yeah.
No one volunteers.
But no, I mean, it's just, I don't think the guy that owns my hobby store does badly. I mean, he just bought a new house with his wife and stuff like that. So I mean, they take trips to Mexico every year, so he's not doing badly or anything. It's just something where it's like everybody kind of discusses every once in a while, like, well, shit, and like in 10 years if Amazon gets, because they're getting pretty heavily into models and stuff now, and you can get pretty decent prices on most stuff. Like, as long as you're willing to forego like any expertise or any kind of like recommendations.
Yeah, I was gonna say half the shit I've learned from talking to people down there.
Yeah, I know, and that's kind of the shitty part of that trade. But at the same time, like, you don't need to buy models from those people. You can buy them and save a lot more money online. You just gotta forgo the social experience, unfortunately. So
yeah. I couldn't do that. I would see that as I don't know. I couldn't see undercutting my guy that way.
No, I mean, neither can I. I'm just saying because everybody's facing that same crunch where it's like you have to beat Walmart or beat Amazon. I mean, eventually it's all going to boil down to that because they're getting into everything.
Well, you can't beat them on price. You have to beat them on customer service.
No, I know, and that's what I'm saying. A lot of people will go the price avenue, and that's the wrong avenue to take. That's what's killed Kmart and a bunch of other stores going against Walmart or people going against Amazon. Because shit, if Amazon wants to get into health insurance and fucking all this other goddamn shit as far as like product services, I don't know what they won't get into. So
they'll keep going until Jeff Bezos owns half the world.
Half? That's a low number to settle for. Like, I thought 100% was more reasonable.
Well, did you hear what happened at Amazon in Europe?
No.
All their employees across different countries, they all walked out because they're all in the same union, and they're like, I don't know, they unfurled some new efficiency plan and everyone's like, fuck you. And they just all hit. It's like the Germans went on strike, then the French, then the Italians, like everyone walked out all the Amazon warehouses.
Well, they did that just in time for Prime Day.
Oh, yeah. I knew there was.
Yeah, some of the American people did that too, but I don't think it was.
They were shot and killed, though.
Yeah, probably.
They had enough guns lying around to kill everyone.
Yeah, just kill all the strikers. You're interfering with capitalism. Crime against humanity.
Because nobody really said anything about it here. And read a news story about it, but it didn't seem to.
Oh, they passed a flyer out at work about it to us.
Oh, really?
Well, that's one of the places we're not. There's so many places we're not supposed to shop. I can't keep track of them all anymore.
No.
I think we're supposed to go to Kroger and Meijer, and that's it because they're in the commercial service employees union or something like that.
I thought Costco.
AFL-CIO. Yeah, Costco is too.
Okay. It's like usually they get a pretty good rep for treating their employees fairly. So.
Oh yeah. They
Costco do any. I mean, what were they bargaining with them for? They'll basically agree to anything the union tells them. It's like, yeah, okay, we can do that, but then we're going to introduce our new line of something or another. Like, there's always something. It's like, yeah, we'll pay you $25 an hour, but we're going to come out with new socks, or it seems to be like a product tie-in almost.
Wait, I think like their lowest paid employee is like $16 an hour or something like that. And
yeah,
but then also like at the top, they don't like the owner of the company or the CEO. Like he doesn't. He's not like a millionaire. Well, he probably is, but
he doesn't make 500 times the salary.
No, I think his salary is like $200,000 a year or something. I mean, he probably has $1 billion in fucking stock options, but he's not.
No, I mean at least that's something that's a lot more refreshing than like, look at this guy that ran that company in the ground. What does he get for his troubles? $25 million.
And a thank you letter and a letter of recommendation.
Oh, did you guys?
Oh, speaking of CEOs. Sergio Marconi had to step down today suddenly as the CEO of Chrysler.
Oh, no.
Because he had complications related to surgery and he doesn't know, he's unhealthy. And it's like, oh, Sergio, all that money you made, all the people you fucked over, all the shit you talked about the union, now you're just going to go to hell. All this work, all this struggle and getting ahead and being number one. And guess what? You're just as dead as everyone else. So fuck you, Sergio. You'll be missed. Piece of shit.
Do you guys hear how many people are going to get laid off from the Disney-Fox merger?
Did they say 2,000?
400,000 people.
400,000?
250,000 from Fox and then 140,000 from Disney.
That doesn't seem.
Or did I get one of the numbers wrong?
Yeah, I think you added a zero.
Okay.
That would be almost all the employees of that company.
Yeah. No, I mean, that sort of makes sense because you imagine like all the jobs that are basically going to be redundant, and then like they're just going to fire all those people.
Yeah. It doesn't make any sense for them to keep 2 heads of film or something.
Yeah.
From Fox and fucking Disney, or like 2 heads of marketing and shit. So yeah, I mean, there's always going to be purge and shit like that. Sorry.
So Family Guy is now going to be a Disney product.
Yeah, somehow.
Yeah, because that's Fox Entertainment and Disney.
But now Brian can fuck Mickey Mouse. Not that would ever
But not
happen.
in the ass. That'd be too far.
That's not family friendly. Like James Gunn's comments.
Oh yeah, what a weird thing that was.
I think they had somebody said it was also that he was a Trump, somebody that bashed on Trump, and they're getting back at him for that. It's like,
Oh yeah, it was a conservative group that just like went through all his tweets. It's like, oh, here's something. Let's see
There's
if
something weird and disturbing.
yeah, it was something that said like he made these comments in 2009. He publicly apologized for them in 2012, and in 2018 he got fired for them.
Yeah, well, that's
from the writer of Tromeo and Juliet.
Yeah, well, that's the culture we live in. I don't know. There was pretty weird comments though. Like it was like I read some of them, was like, whoa, really? But
Well, the others there was it was just like this, like there's this group of, conservatives basically just trying to go around and I forget how they word it, like throw around the moral equivalency, something like that,
moral majority, something.
where it's like they're just using it against them.
Yeah.
Which that's weird.
Oh, they're
Because it
crazy.
because it also obviously doesn't go the other way.
No. I mean, it's it's just all nutcase shit. I mean, it's just like that whole thing with the meeting with Putin, and it's like, oh, this is weird, and it gets weirder all the time.
So you want to get up here to show off this stuff?
No,
or-
you can. It's not. I mean,
Andrew has his model. It's model time with Nate and Andrew.
Oh, okay.
sorry, just some of the new stuff I painted up that I wanted to
I want to go first.
bring in. Doesn't matter. It's
All right, here's this guy.
Okay. Hold him still.
This isn't the best lighting, but whatever.
Oh, that looks pretty cool.
yeah, they're kind of like a Egyptian kind of like fucking influence, like chaos god type people.
Yeah, I like the accents around the armor. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it take a lot of fine detail work because that's a lot of like little lines to draw and little like details to pick out. They're kind of a pain in the ass. They're cool in the end, but they're a pain in the ass in the beginning.
Yeah, that definitely looks like magnifying glass work.
I don't have a magnifying glass. I just have a nice, really bright light and squint.
Is that like a multi-barreled Gatling type gun?
Yeah, it's called like a Reaver Soul Cannon or whatever. So it's
Holy shit! Those are some tusks.
yeah, he's basically like a giant fucking Gorable. I'm gonna use him as a fucking demon prince. So he's supposed to be like somebody that's like mutated from a regular human being from the gods of chaos into that.
Huh.
So
I like his mane. Is that molded in one piece?
yeah, it's molded one piece.
Oh, okay. Wow.
I think he's only like 12 or 13 pieces altogether.
Huh.
I mean, GW does a pretty good job of making things that it doesn't like all fiddly and all tiny shit. Like pretty nice modular stuff.
I'm waiting for the camera. Usually it'll zap in and focus.
Focus! Goddamn you!
Because that's pretty blurry.
Yeah, it's. Yeah.
There we go. Okay. Was it like a knight?
That's the aspiring sorcerer of the unit. The one guy that's actually alive. All the other guys are supposedly just armor filled with dust. They're not actually alive. Their souls and bodies are vaporized into their armor when they committed heresy. So for their trouble, they get lifetime of servitude until their armor dies. So they're just mindless automatons, basically, and they just kind of... That guy is the icon, the flame icon. I just did him today.
Oh, okay.
He basically, like, if you roll a certain number or whatever, he just, like, kills people next to him and shit like that, because
Here
it
it
is
goes.
chaos.
I have to get my face out of the way because I think it wants to focus on my face when it's.
Yeah, because it snaps in. Oh, that's cool.
But then if I go,
Now, like those bronze details, like those are like raised, right?
Yeah, those are raised. But I do
Okay.
dry brush over them to give the... Because I use, like, a reddish bronze, something more looks like blood gold. And then I
Okay.
do silver over it to make it look worn and make it pick up the highlight a little bit more to make it shinier. But then
Huh.
the purple and blue... The blue is like a teal. And then do a purple wash for some of the shadowing on it. And then do different weathering and dry brushing for some of the other stuff too to kind of pick up colors. Because it's supposed to be like just straight gold and straight like deep like ocean blue for the color scheme on them, but and yellow. But I didn't really like that very much, so I kind of chose to go my own way a little bit.
That's really cool. That's amazing stuff.
Yeah, I just ordered custom doors for transports from the UK that'll arrive in 5 days. It was only $30 a piece for doors.
why does it have to come from the UK?
Because the kits that usually come from GW are around $39, but there's no markings on them. It's just a box with treads. and like a little machine gun on top. And there's some symbolism they give you, but it's not really anything specific to a faction. And so this one, it's like a bunch of Egyptian like scarabs all over the place and flames and all these skulls and shit popping out everywhere because it's resin. It's not plastics.
Oh.
So it's just you replace the certain panels that come in the kit with those resin panels, and then you have the detail of the faction you want. And it's a lot more specific and it looks a lot cooler.
Huh.
So.
Well, I'm not really. This is what I'm working on right now.
Oh. What's that?
This is Star Blazers
Oh.
2002. The Warriors of Love.
What?
That's the direct
Wow,
Japanese
okay.
translation. It's supposed to, because there's, I don't know, they're supposed to like not use certain weapons because the people they were fighting before they're now allied with, but now they have a new enemy and they're using the same old weapons from the Yamato, which they said they wouldn't use again. So, because I guess if you fire that wave motion gun at a planet, it like it's kind of like the end of Ender's Game. It like destroys the planet.
Yeah.
So they said the treaty they made said they wouldn't use those weapons again, but then they get this enemy that's overwhelming, and they just start using those weapons again. So it's basically a play on the atomic bomb. But yeah, these are the new ships. There's 3 that came in the kit.
Oh.
They're pretty. I mean, they're like ones like this, but they're taped up behind
Oh,
me.
is that the Earth fleet or is that the alien fleet?
That's the Earth fleet.
Okay.
This is the Unagi, and some other ships I can't pronounce.
Is there other stuff tied to it, like an anime or like comic books?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There's an anime you can watch on. I don't know. I watched one of them just to get a vibe for it.
Well, that was interesting. I found out the other day. You know Crunchyroll?
Yeah, that's the ones where I watched the first one. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was a like Netflix subscription service. Like you don't have to subscribe to it. You can just watch the stuff
Watch
on there.
commercials. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how I watched the first 3 episodes of this to understand what was going on.
And
But
like
it's Star Blazers. It all the Yamato always comes back. The soul of the original captain is always trying to tell people what to do. And, but this one, they're rebelling against the Earth government because they're doing, because they're using wave motion guns. But then they were about to be annihilated by this new enemy, and they had to use them. But everyone's mad because it's like, you said you wouldn't use them. It's like, well, it's that or death. Like, wait a minute, what are we doing? So it's kind of a weird, it's like a lot of that stuff. It's some cultural stuff that doesn't. It's like, I get the point. I get the conflict, but it's almost like a weird argument. It's like, well, okay, we should just die then.
No, there's. I don't,
Yeah,
there's-
these are pretty cool. What I've done though is because Bandai made them real easy where you put them together because they had their color schemes are kind of weird because they're like striped as they move down. Like one section, like the bottom seafoam green, the top's blue and gray. But what I did was I took modeling putty and filled in all those seams, and I'm just taping them off and painting them by the instructions. So the ships look really smooth like they do in the pictures instead of blocky and Lego-y like the kit came. So that's the only different thing I'm doing. But I'm just kind of messing around. I'm not doing anything right now. Nothing serious.
No, I mean, they look really cool. I kind of wish they had ships like those. I kind of wish, because there's like Star Wars Armada, and there's like Drop Fleet. There's a bunch of Armada-based like tabletop games. I kind of wish it had a game system behind it, because that would make it even better.
Yeah.
Well, that they're having an Expanse tabletop game coming out, or a Kickstarter, like
Oh, really?
Monday.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because I know there's a Hellboy Kickstarter for like a tabletop like board game with a bunch of cool minis that started a couple months ago, and then the Game of Thrones mini game is coming, or the tabletop game is coming out like in another month or so, with a bunch of new miniatures and stuff. And the guy that owns my store is trying to get people into it heavily, but he's done that shit for like the last 3 big releases of crap, because damn it, what's their name? Fantasy Flight, that has the Star Wars license, and then some other Disney stuff they work with for tabletop. They've done a couple big releases in the last year, he's gotten a lot of people into 2 of them. Both of them have not taken off, and nobody plays them. And they're each at least $100 a piece with all these different, $50, $60 expansions to them. And people have bought into him hardcore, and like he keeps getting people into shit nobody wants to play for his own enjoyment, apparently, or something. I don't know.
I still think it's funny that the Stalker is an RPG game. Well, Tales from the Loop was made into an RPG game too. Oh, did you hear Amazon pick that up as a series?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
We'll see where that. Well, yeah, Tales from the Loop is going to be an Amazon series, and then the Electric State's going to be a movie. Because it's different. Because I thought, oh, this is what the Russo brothers are doing. It's like, no, they own the rights to the Electric State. Somebody else, Amazon owns the rights to Tales from the Loop, and they're both going to make them into live action. We'll see where this goes. It's like, yeah, it always sounds cool until someone's got to start writing checks.
Well, it's not like they really have a story they have to keep track of. They really just want to bring that visual element out.
Yeah, and that's going to be the problem, because like those are amazingly visually cool, but I don't know like what they could design around them. I mean, the Electric State doesn't come out until September.
Well, I mean, I think it'd just be nice if they could bring that to life. That'd be interesting to see, but we'll see what they do with the story.
Yeah, we'll see how they can do
that.
You
can get really fucking weird with those stories. What's that weird thing that was just like a floating head with like bolt holes in it, and like there's a weird story behind it, and there's like the website has like the what's the website called? It's like some Defense Force thing, isn't it, or
something like that? Yeah, I'm trying to think of.
But yeah, he just made a weird painting, and then like they just built this people just built this backstory. He and other people built a backstory to it, and it doesn't necessarily make sense, but it seems interesting when you get into it at the time.
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll see. I'm excited about that. And you sent me that out of the blue. Remember that showed up at the house one day, and I had to call you. It's like, did you send me something called Tales from the Loop?
Yeah.
Oh,
I think I saw it on Twitter, and I was like, I think Nathan would enjoy this. And I didn't even buy it for myself. I just sent it right to you. I've never actually seen the book.
Oh, I have them. Because I use that to.
You know who Simon Stålhag is? He's a Swedish artist, and he makes these books, and they're very stylized. And Tales from the Loop is very. Specifically, it's like 80s Sweden if it was kind of like Blade Runner, but like less dirty but also weird, and it's kind of like weird robots and stuff like that. And it's not necessarily like a full-on book, but it's like there's kind of stories with each picture he draws, so it's more of an art book than a story book, but it's kind of a combination.
Yeah, it's weird because it's like how would I describe it? Because they'll have stuff there like a Volvo from the 1980s. Like everything looks very 1980s, but then there'll be like giant robots and huge power plants in the background. Because supposedly, and it's very vague, like a lot of things, because it's more about art than story. But there was some breakthrough that was made in Russia in the 60s about energy science and things like that. So essentially, the world looks essentially the same, but there's like huge power plants, and then Tales from the Loop, they're actually shutting it down. It was sort of entering an end phase because they were creating energy fields so powerful that dinosaurs would appear, and just all kinds of weird shit was going on.
Yeah, there's a robot, and like he's leading him away. He's like in a Volkswagen Golf or whatever. He has a flare, and he's like leading these robots away,
like hurting them. Yeah, and there's not really a lot. There's some backstory, but not a lot. It's mostly really stylized, kind of interesting.
There's just a kid with a gun and just a robot in the middle. And that one, I think the kid's in control of the robot, or I don't know.
Oh, on the cover? Yeah, that's what the robot backpack is. Because the police are chasing the robot or something, and the kid's controlling it.
I mean, except for the 80s aspect, kind of reminds me of like there's a video game coming out, but it's also based off a board game. It's like Rust Tactics or Tales of Rust or something like that, where it's like World War II/1 mechs and then just like peasant society around them, so people fighting giant robots with like fucking M1 Garands and shit.
Yeah, weren't you talking about that, Nathan? Like,
well, the one I'm talking about was called Scythe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's the board game it's based off of.
Okay. Yeah, it's kind of set in an alternate World War I, or there's like the Greater German Empire. Things are different.
Yeah.
Is
There's
the
like
one?
there's different factions.
But they're making it into a video game too, but I think it's like Tales of Rust or Rust something.
Oh, okay.
So I mean, I don't know when that releases. I think it's either within the year or early next year.
Is this the one with where like all the people are like VR tethered to a giant robot? Is that from Tales from the Loop, or is that from another one of his?
It's from the movie.
That's the Electric State.
Okay.
It's the movie Cell.
Because there's Tales from the Flood, or there was Tales from the Loop, Things from the Flood, and then the last one's the Electric State. This Things from the Flood is set in the late 80s, early 90s, and then the Electric State is set solely in America in the mid to early 90s. But it's not really America because it's like the American West, but and then when you get to California, it's called Pacifica. I haven't read the book yet, but I've seen enough because they were having a Kickstarter for it, and you could get an early release, and I was going to give money to the Kickstarter because all those books are Kickstartered. But I didn't have any kroner, and they didn't have a conversion thing. And then they said, the English language version wouldn't be available in the Kickstarter. I was like, well, that's not going to do me any good. Hold my phone over it and try to guess what the Swedish is. But now it'll be out in September. They'll get another $35 from me. And then I don't know when the TV show is going to come out.
Oh, it's probably not for years. I imagine, I wonder what they're going to do, because immediately I was like, oh, they're just going to do another anthology series, or are they going to do like a long fiction with reoccurring characters or what?
Well,
I don't know. Go ahead.
No, sorry, I was going to say, I would think it would be more like Stranger Things, where it's just kind of like you cover, it's going to be a long fiction, where you just have kind of like the beginning set up of like, hey, maybe it's starting to get shut down, but just like the preceding years.
Yeah, there's a lot of like kids doing stuff in that.
Yeah, they could have a kid's story for sure. Because there seemed to be a lot of dangerous things going on, and people were sort of indifferent to it. I mean, they have a great visual backdrop to work with if they could write a cool story. Because a lot of things in Tales from the Loop, especially, are just static. It's not people interacting with things in any way. It's like kids hanging out, and there's a giant robot in the background, or there's something, but they're not really like engaged with it. There's not action or anything. It's just like, oh, this is a weird thing to see. Because the Loop was the power plant in Sweden, I think. I don't have to get the book out. Understand? Because I know one of the things that happened to the kid was his parents were getting divorced, and it's like all the parents are getting divorced who work at the power plant. Why is that? You find out that the plant's closing, and Sweden's economy is going to fail as a result of it, or something. I don't know. There's the things that are hinted at but never really explored. But anyway, Tales from the Loop. Check it out. In 15 or 20 years. Oh, yeah, they got. When's the Lord of the Rings thing starting on Amazon?
I don't know. I don't even know if they have like a cast together or anything, or if they just bought this shit.
It's like, let's spend billions.
Well, I just bought it so Disney didn't get their hands on it, or some other fucking thing.
What did they spend for the rights alone? Like $700 million or something crazy like that.
Yeah, you said that was rights alone, but I think that might just wrapped up a lot of other things.
Well, they have rights to everything, though.
Yeah.
Not just the Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings. They have the rights to the Silmarillion, the Lost Tales, all that stuff. Which no one really knows as much about those. Everyone knows the Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, but you really want to sit down and have a trial of patience, read the Silmarillion cover to cover. It's cool, parts of it, but some of it's like reading the Iliad and the Odyssey, where it's just lists of names. It's like, what are we doing here? And Elborth set forth and never returned, but Guinevere begot him the son of so and so, and he has the two hammers of whatever. And it's like, what kind of story is this? See, the Hobbit was really the final story. It's the rest of it was this guy learning how to write, how to work his craft a little bit. Because a lot of the Tolkien stuff is pretty dense. But The Hobbit, it was like, oh, this is cool for general audiences. Because The Lord of the Rings can get dense in points.
I'm trying to think of that one you suggested to me. It wasn't. It was kind of fantasies. Was it Belgeriad?
No, recently?
That was a long time ago. Wasn't the guy that did Wheel of Time? But he said like you should start with the Belgeriad or whatever or something.
Oh, the Belgeriad was that was the guy. That was from a little while back. No, Robert Jordan was the guy who did the Wheel of Time.
Oh, okay.
Belgeriad was written by David Eddings, but that's like the end part of a giant quadrilogy.
Oh, it is? Because I thought you suggested that to me. Because I'm like, because I don't really like get into fantasy. But if it's anything sci-fi, I'll get into it. But if it's fantasy, I just get bored for some reason.
The only
I thought
fantasy
you
I've
suggested that to me.
The only fantasy I've liked in like the last couple years has been the Rothfuss books. The what is it, Name of the Wind and The Wise Man's Fear. It's part of the King Killer Chronicles.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Those are really good. But everyone's waiting for the third one. It's like, yeah, it's going to take a while. These
I think
books
I
are.
bought one of those on Audible, but
Yeah, Name of the Wind's really good. I mean, it's got a cool vibe to it because there is magic and stuff, but it's like super complicated and there's a lot of stuff going on, but it's kind of focused on one character's story.
oh, I got Oathbringer. How was that? No, I guess that's not. I don't think that's part of that. I'm not sure what Oathbringer is. And I got Doug Stanhope came out with another book, so I got that.
And what's his new book?
I think it's an Audible only book. What is it? This Is Not Fame.
Oh, because the last one I listened to was Digging Up Mom,
Yeah, yeah.
which was kind of cool and horrible at the same time.
That was my book of the year that came out.
Yeah. It was a great book, but fuck, it was depressing. I mean, it gave me a lot of insight into Doug Stanhope's. Like, yeah, this explains a lot.
Would you listen to the Audible book, or did you actually read it?
I listened to the Audible.
Okay, because you kind of get more with that.
No, yeah, no, I listened to that one. I was even sneak listening to it at work. So what have you seen recently, Andrew? Anything cool?
Watched the Isle of Dogs today, and that was a cool experience. I mean,
Is that the Wes Anderson claymation one?
yeah, it mixes in a lot of good animation and stuff too. It's not, I mean, it's mostly claymation, but I want to say they did the animation part for the aesthetic, but also because it probably saved them a lot of time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was an hour and 41-minute movie, so I imagine it only took like 4 or 5 years to shoot that.
Yeah.
Because there's an extras like bonus thing where they do cast interviews, but it's all through animated claymation characters. It's not with the actual people. So it's like, well, that must have took another year onto the production time for that 5-minute interview. But it was actually pretty cool. I mean, it comes up front in the beginning of the movie and talks about like, okay, all the people, they're going to speak their native languages, and we might have some interpretation, we might not. It might be horrible. It might be by some intern. It might be by whatever. And it's just kind of like either a joke or half serious. And then it's like the dogs will all be translated into English and stuff like that. So it's like already, it doesn't make you focus on the dialogue so much because it's a lot of the artistic and the presentation visually of the film, because it's all Japanese for at least a lot of the characters speaking. So it's like you can hear the emotion in their voice, and you can read their body language, and as much as you can with claymation and stuff like that. But it's more or less what the you're going off what the dogs are saying because they're the antagonists of the protagonist of the story, and it's all just. You appreciate the visuals a lot more. You're paying more attention because there's a lot more stuff hidden in the background for the story and stuff like that. So it was a different experience from Fantastic Mr. Fox, which was his first outing, because everything there there's still like hidden things in that, and it's in English, and there's a lot of good like little jokes and stuff like that. Just like there's a dog in the Isle of Dogs called the Oracle, and it's a pug. And so every time somebody's like, the Oracle is predicted, and it's just like, the dog can understand TV. So she's like, make sure you pack something warm. It's gonna snow tomorrow. Oh, thank you, Oracle. I can't believe you can read the future. No, she's reading the weather forecast right now or whatever. It's just kind of, it's funny, and it's like played like 3 or 4 different times throughout the rest of the movie. Each time it's funny, but at the same time it's like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. There's once again talented voice cast, and everything comes together. And it's
Is there tons of one shots where the character's in the perfect center of the screen and there's like a bunch of symmetry?
Yeah.
Okay, yes, that's a Wes Anderson movie.
Happens all the time. And all the fights are just, I mean, any claymation fight where it's just like cotton balls and just like limbs sticking out of the cotton balls, and like, look, they're tussling. But
So how do they incorporate just normal animation rather than stop motion?
when
Like
it
they
comes
cut to a TV or something?
Okay, so yeah, like a TV or a screen or like a representation in a newspaper, what happened, because it's like the beginning of the movie is the mayor of the prefecture putting into law, like they're outcasting all the dogs, Isle of Dogs. So it's kind of like a TV, like there's some parts where there's like an English interpreter speaking over him, so it says what he's saying in English. But then her screen is just like a drawing of all the people in attendance. It's a live action drawing. It's not. But then it cuts back to all claymation, and then it might cut back to another screen where it's like the Radar Operations Center, and it's just like a full cartoon of like people moving or whatever.
Huh.
So I like how it incorporates that, because it kind of breaks up the art style a little bit and brings a little more depth into it. But at the same time, I'm sure it saved them a lot of money in claymation costs and time. So I mean, it was a nice different thing with that. I was kind of disappointed with how little special features there was, but I was kind of hoping there'd be a commentary or something, but it wasn't really anything.
It wasn't a Criterion film.
Oh, I know, but
They usually do. They've done Criterion stuff with his. Like I remember, like the Royal Tenenbaums is a Criterion collection.
yeah, but that might be a couple years down the road or something.
Well, usually sometimes with his, it's like right out of the gate. Like I think like Benjamin Button. I think the DVD release was a Criterion collection,
Yeah.
and I think the Social Network too. Also,
Oh, really?
yeah. That's David Fincher, so I think he has a deal. But I thought Wes Anderson had a similar deal, but I don't know.
Oh, I'll have to look for it on Amazon, because I mean, I didn't get that one in 4K. I got the.
Well, I don't. That's also an animated movie, so maybe he's not really going whole. Because I'm not sure if the Fantastic Mr. Fox had like a Criterion Collection edition or anything.
Don't know if it does.
I think that's a Fox movie too. So
It might be the only one that doesn't, because I can't remember it being on the Criterion when I looked at it. Because everything else from Bottle Rocket and Darjeeling Unlimited has a Criterion. I don't know if Fantastic Mr. Fox does.
yeah, I think. But yeah, I don't. Yeah, maybe I just think Fox released that because it has Fox in the title. Somebody owns that movie, and it's like a major studio, and they're not really big on giving Criterion Collection there. They're big on sharing money with Criterion Collection.
But no, I meant to watch Quiet Place, but I didn't think I had time, so I didn't watch that.
I bought it, haven't seen it.
Yeah, same here.
I watched that. Watched it last weekend.
I hear people's like, yeah, it's good, but
It is. There's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
I mean, for a movie that's totally an original idea and a first-time director, I think it'd be.
Yeah, I think it's more impressive. I think people are impressed with him being a director. So now he can be the next Ben Affleck.
Yeah.
I mean, he's gonna play Jack Ryan, so he's right on board.
Yep.
I know,
Yep.
I mean,
History repeats itself.
other than that, I've only seen the rest of like 6 episodes of the Joel McHale show, and then Luke Cage season 2, which was like I told Colin before, I think you got on, is entirely. I liked a lot of the characters they introduced, like Bushmaster, other Iron Fist, and Colleen Wing, and even Detective Knight had pretty good seasons. But like Luke Cage himself was just kind of inconsistent and weird. And then like the show was just too fucking long-winded. They should have ended that. They should have ended that season like 3 or 4 episodes early. They did not need that much meat on the bone. They just kept fighting the same battles over and over again. Just got exhausting. It's like, God, I've sunk like 14 hours into this show and it's just not ended yet.
Yeah, they had weird like character. Well, it's like they tried. Because like usually Luke Cage, they keep him kind of a positive character, like in the face of everything. Like it's like he's not really gonna win, but he's gonna eventually come out ahead. Like, but he's gonna like maintain this kind of air of positivity.
Right.
And I don't know if they do that in the comic books or all, but here it's like, this is the dark middle chapter. So it's him where he's like, power gets shit done or whatever, or force gets, I can't remember what he says. And then he gets like too angry, and then he's got to get pulled, and then he has to pull it back. He's like, oh yeah, I'm not going to kill anybody. That whole, loop they play with, main characters. Where it's like, they went through the whole movie killing 500 people, but they can't kill the ultimate bad guy who, like, destroyed his family. It's not right!
No, I like Bushmaster's character a lot, actually, for how much I kind of hated his unibrow throughout the whole season. But at the same time, like, how long has it been between the first season and the second season? It feels like a couple of years.
Yeah, I think it's either 2 or like a year and a half.
I kind of wish for a recap, because there's some stuff where I was like, I don't really remember any of this, so I'm just going to hope they fill me in about what the fuck happens, because otherwise I don't remember what the fuck they're talking about. Because I kept talking about Tone getting thrown off the roof. I'm like, who the fuck is Tone? Like, I had to fucking, like, watch half the season until they refreshed my memory who the fuck Tone was. And I kept switching up Diamondback with Cottonmouth, so I kept getting them confused halfway through the season. And the plot twist with Bushmaster, kind of like, he's kind of like the Jamaican Luke Cage, except he just fucking kills people, which is totally fine. But he also kind of has to do drugs almost to fucking be Luke Cage, which I kind of get, and that's kind of a cool gimmick. But at the same time, I don't know if it would have been better to humanize him before the whole season started or most of the way through the season like they did. Because it's like before, it's just like, okay, Luke Cage is good and this guy's evil. This is the standard template we're going to follow. And they humanize him and make it seem like, well, maybe he's not really that bad. And then he just goes back to
it's okay he kills a lot of people. He's trying to get revenge on a bad person.
And then he just kind of goes back to being kind of okay, but just more or less kind of being the enemy again.
Yeah.
So it's like, why did you bother to humanize him if you're just going to make him a straight-up enemy again? It's like, it just didn't... I don't know.
Yeah, there was a couple times, like, all right, the season's coming to an end. There was like, oh, there's 3 more episodes left.
It's got to be a wrap.
Well, it gets really weird there because there's a whole thing with like this club. What's the club called?
The Harlem's Paradise.
Yeah. And there's a fucking picture in there of Biggie Smalls with a crown on his head. It's supposed to be worth millions of dollars. That's a weird point. And for some reason, like, and he's been like kind of going up against this gang that owns this club for like the past 2 seasons. And like right at the end, the one character dies, and she leaves the club to Luke Cage.
Oh,
okay. Because she says like nobody loves Harlem more than Luke Cage or something like that. But also it's kind of a weird fuck you. It's like, yeah, let's see what happens when you have power. And that's what the end of it is him being corrupted by power, because now he's basically like a gangster, but like, a good one, maybe.
Yeah. Well, I have a theory with the paintings. Okay, so the one that's worth like $20 million that Shades tells her to sell instead of fucking being an idiot and keep selling guns and shit for money.
Yeah.
That's like an abstract, like multiple people kind of within each other painting. So it kind of foreshadows her inner conflict of like, do I still want to be the kind of nice asshole I was, or do I want to go full gangster? And then as soon as she goes full gangster, she whips out Cottonmouth's Biggie Smalls with this fucking crown on his head. Gangster shit, but when the Jamaicans there and take it over for like a couple episodes, it's W.E.D. Du Bois like going in like his full regalia in like a parade car, like he's the king of Harlem, and that's fucking what Bushmaster wants. He just wants to be the fucking king of the neighborhood. He wants to be king. And then as soon as Luke Cage takes it over, it's fucking Muhammad Ali, and he's the fighter. He's the one that fucking like he's the people's champion and shit like that. So like all those paintings make sense. But I'm pretty sure the only reason Harlem's Paradise is still around is because that set probably cost a lot of fucking money and they weren't going to ditch it after like 2 fucking seasons.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because like in the first season, they kind of like, they go more places in the first season, which is probably why it didn't feel like it dragged as much. Because they kind of had like, hey, here's a road trip in the middle of the season. Yeah. They didn't really have that this season.
No, this season they're just like, every episode revolved around Harlem's Paradise. It was just like, I can't believe this is the power seat of the fucking neighborhood. Like, it's just, yeah, you get a lot of free concerts here or whatever, but it's not the same.
Also, there's like the weird thing where like they don't like Luke Cage doesn't have any money because he's like a actual convict, and like he just gets released from prison from last season, like this season, or is that from the Defender? I can't remember like where the timeline takes place between like Defenders and this.
Like he basically, I think he gets released from prison like before.
But like didn't he go to prison at the end of the first season?
Yeah.
When did his Defenders happen though?
I think after he got out of prison or after he broke out.
Okay, so this is like a little bit after Defenders.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, he needs money for this because he like owns this barber shop now because like the guy got shot in it last year. And but they're like he's not a barber, so like nobody's making money there. It's just a shop they have now that's overhead. And like one guy has the idea of basically getting Luke Cage like sponsorship deals, so he goes out to like a football field and is like throwing tires around and shit and like getting like Nike recruits looking at him like, yeah, we should sponsor this guy. It's like, you know, he's a convict, right?
I like the part where he's like trying to convince somebody like I should play in the NFL, like, well then everybody should get a superpower first, and it's not. And then he was like, well, if you're born that way, I'm like, even if you're born that way, that's still not fucking legal. You can't do that. Like, but yeah, the Nike sponsorship, or the guy that wants him to fight a badger for starters on live TV for money and shit like that. It's like, what the fuck? It's like, yeah, I kind of like the whole season is just basically compromising his like, I'm the great people's champion character, and it's like he slowly just turns to shit. Like, he's not a horrible person, but he's not the person he was in the first season.
The thing I like most is there's a character, Misty Knight, and she's just this badass, no-nonsense detective who got her arm chopped off in the Defenders, so she doesn't have an arm for like the first 4 episodes of the season, and then they give her a robot arm.
Oh, okay.
Now she's all badass again. And she gets disability pay.
Right. Double dip.
I was kind of disappointed that they had her rejoin the police force. I thought
Yeah.
that was like a golden opportunity because then she can set up her detective
I can't.
agency.
What the fuck happens is she still like. Is she still police at the end of the season?
Yeah, she's like fucking basically.
Because she like
chief of the
quits
fucking station
and like
now.
comes back like 4 different times, like near the end, like the last 3 episodes.
I know, and I don't get that. It's fucking perplexing to me. It's like you can't just fucking decide to be a cop and not be a cop. And it's like I wanted her to leave because that would progress her story forward. Because in the comic book, she's always part of like this detective agency with
Yeah,
Colleen and Jessica Jones.
Yeah, isn't there like just an Alias comic where it's Marlene Wang and fucking Jessica Jones and her?
Yeah, it's their own detective agency.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then Jessica Jones has a bunch of kids with Luke Cage, and Misty Knight fucks Iron Fist, and Colleen Wing dies all the time. And she's a white chick with blonde hair, and I mean, not that I care that she's Asian in the show. At least that's some diversity.
They're yellow washing. That sounds racist.
But I mean, yeah, it's or at least according to the 70s, like the when Iron Fist comic books first came out, that's what she was. I don't know if in later ones they adapted it, but it's something where Iron Fist should really not be a blonde white guy anymore. But at the same, because there's been other Iron Fist comic books where he's Asian or he's anything. Because there's like a whole history fucking part where it's like the first Iron Fist was the pirate queen, whatever. And it's just like this African pirate queen off the coast of fucking Somalia, like raiding ships and killing people and shit. And like this one Iron Fist that uses nothing but fucking Colt 45s and fucking imbues this force into the fucking bullets and just like kills people and shit. I'm like
The Punisher Iron Fist.
It's like you go from that level of awesome to the guy that whining and bitches all the time about how he can't find peace, even though like Colin said he found peace in Kong Lun or whatever, and ripped a dragon's heart out of its fucking body, but he can't battle meth dealers. Like it doesn't make any goddamn sense. I have a conflict within myself. I can't do this. Yeah,
we just saw the trailer for season 2. It's like, well, I hope they don't fuck this up again. Because that's what we're talking about. Like the first season was terrible. He was also bad in the Defenders, and then he has a cameo in this season, and because and he's like okay, because he's not like this. It's not fucking 180 stuff where it's like, I found inner peace to channel my energy into my fist. Oh no, I have emotions, and I can't control them. It's like, you can't have uncontrollable emotions and be at inner peace at the same time. That's making fucking sense. You're just a whiny little shit.
And also at the same time, it's also a show about a hostile corporate takeover.
Yeah.
Like the Ghost family. I never got really that angle. I mean, I know he's supposed to be tied to the real world, but this is, I don't know.
So yeah, take 3.
See where this goes.
Yeah. I heard something. I'm not really sure. I heard an interesting story about the. Is it Charlie Hunnam? He plays Daredevil? Or not Charlie Hunnam? Shit.
I was like, Charlie Hunnam stands iron.
The guy who plays Charlie Cox. I think that's his name.
I was like,
he plays Daredevil on the Marvel shows. I heard like something like he did an audition to play Han Solo, but he didn't get it because he had spent so much time acting as a blind person that he had trouble like making eye contact with the person he was like doing the lines with in the
Well, I guess I heard his character. I never actually saw the last episode of Defenders because I fell asleep and I never rewatched it. At the same time, like, I heard he supposedly died but didn't die.
Oh, yeah, well, it was like collapse. You know, nobody dies from a collapse because you never see the person die, so they're not dead. The place collapsed, everyone assumes he's dead. He's not fucking dead.
Well, because I asked my wife that question because, like, during the Luke Cage Iron Fist episode, when he was like, Colleen's there for you, Misty's there for you, Jessica's there for you, and then he doesn't say anything about Matt Murdock. I'm like, apparently the blind guy doesn't fucking like you. Like, I don't know what the fuck. Like, it just didn't. My wife was like, "Oh, he's supposedly dead." I'm like, "Oh, okay." Yeah.
I mean, if they want to not make any more Daredevil television series, I mean that gives them an out. But I think they want to at least make a couple more.
I think they'd make at least one more season because I don't know if they have some other big event series coming up.
I don't know, because there was like almost like 3 fucking years between the first season of Jessica Jones and the second one, which that was weird. But I don't know
when they're going to touch on Infinity War either, because don't they have to kind of mention that?
No, it looks like they're just like divorcing themselves from the movie universe. Because I remember like they had like you see with you basically they'd have like newspaper articles and like clips from maybe not clips from the movies, but like you had all the alien shit like laying around, like that was like ingrained in the universe, like, oh yeah, New York got fucked up and we're part of New York and like all that stuff. They seem to like just kind of divorce themselves from that sense.
I mean, I know their philosophy is supposed to be this is a TV show because this is street level heroes.
Yeah,
this is the people that get shit done on your local area, not global wide. But you're still talking about 2 of those people basically can fucking stop bullets with their bodies and fucking not feel any harm and kick the shit out of people, while the other ones
they're at least better than Black Cat, or what's Black Widow. She doesn't have superpowers. She's just a badass.
So, I mean,
or Hawkeye.
Yeah, I mean I don't get that. I mean any hero that's available is still a hero that's not in the Soul Stone or whatever.
But yeah, I think there's got to be there must be some sort of like a slight backlash between Netflix and Disney somehow, that they just kind of divorce themselves of that. Because I mean, Disney does have fucking what's the Marvel show they have?
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So that does carry stuff from the movies, right? I mean, it has characters, but does it like
it kind of like sets up stuff between movies, but it never really acknowledges it either. Because one actress like went on record apparently recently where she was pissed off because the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. do so much for between the movies, but they never get any fucking mention for doing anything in the movies. So it was
because I keep waiting for like in the Avengers movies or whatever, I keep waiting for just like 3-second cameos from like Daredevil or Jessica Jones, just coffee. It's fucking Jessica Jones drinking coffee. Just give me that, man.
Plus that, and somebody brought up a valid point during the Infinity War movie when Doctor Strange and Tony Stark and Spider-Man are in fucking New York. battling these people. Where the fuck are the people in New York? Where's fucking Iron Fist and Luke Cage and Jessica Jones then? Are they just like fucking, we gotta go solve this drug-related crime down at this block. Who cares if the world might be ending over here?
I can't get the layout, but like, I think specifically, like, I don't think anybody in the show is in Manhattan.
Maybe. I don't know the boroughs of New York very well. So
Yeah, so like, I did this on Google Earth once, on VR or Google Earth. I forgot like how New York went. I forgot now, but basically, so like all the iconic stuff that you know of New York, that's all on Manhattan Island.
Yeah.
And then cross a bridge. I believe that's the fucking, what's the bridge?
Brooklyn Bridge.
Brooklyn Bridge, and that goes over to Long Island, which is basically the majority of New York is on Long Island.
Okay.
But like the city, you know, that's Manhattan. So I believe on Long Island, I think like the Bronx is there, Brooklyn, like all that shit's like in Long Island.
Yeah.
And then there's like Staten Island, but I don't know what the fuck that shit is.
Nathan, do you have anything to say?
No, I don't know much about the geography of city of New York.
Sorry to be. Cedar Rapids is a big town technically, but a small town. So like when you say New York City, I'm just like, oh, that's not that fucking big. It's like, oh yeah, only like what, 4 million people
14
live there?
million people.
Or 14 million people
Yeah,
live
it's
there?
I think it's the third largest city in the world, isn't it?
I think so, yeah.
It's because it's Tokyo's 1,
Mexico City.
Mexico City's 2, and I think New York's 3rd.
That's right. LA isn't bigger than New York.
LA's more of a later period. LA's like kind of what I am here. It's like a giant city center with a whole bunch of subdivisions and little cities.
Yeah, if you really want to like consider like the thing that supports LA, if you like would put all that population in, it would be like fucking
25 million.
yeah. Because it's like the Anaheim Angels, like, you know, they're in Anaheim, but they consider themselves the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, or whatever the fuck they term
The
it.
shittiest sports name ever.
It's well, no, because like they want to put LA on their hats because people will buy it if it says LA,
Yeah.
which is a good business reason, but stupid.
Yeah. Well, it has to do with when they were settled and when the suburbs became a thing. Because like New York's just like a giant, you know, metropolis, because it was settled, you know, before America was a country.
But yeah, it's like Manhattan, like that's where it's like it's all cramped in and stuff. But then you have like, you know, you have the park there. What the fuck do you call that?
Central Park.
Central Park.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you look at a map, you look at Long Island. Long Island's like pretty big, like
Yeah.
So, like there's houses in there and shit. It's not necessarily like another metropolis, but
No.
but yeah,
Everyone-
everyone
away.
drives in to New York to go do their job and then go out to Long Island. Or no, people now they just go to Jersey. That's where everybody just
That's where
goes
you
to
can
Jersey.
afford to live.
Yeah. Well, sort of.
Well, before you were talking about that, I was just thinking of like other MLB teams that could do desperate marketing grabs in their names. It's like Oakland Athletics. We're also in California. We're just like Chicago Hot Dog Cubs, or just fucking some other shit just to get some extra seats and extra income out of it.
Oakland, San Francisco's shitty neighbor, but don't worry, San Francisco's shitty too.
I'm surprised why does Sacramento not have a baseball team? They have a basketball team, and they have.
Oh, there's a lot of weird teams where cities that they're single sports team, like Portland, they just have a basketball team.
Yeah, I know, and that's weird because Portland, like that area, is like booming right now as far as.
I know, it was always weird living in Indiana. It's like we have a football team, we have a basketball team. Why don't we have a fucking baseball team?
Yeah, I never. I mean, Toronto has a baseball team.
Yeah, and a basketball team,
And hockey team.
Basketball team.
multiple hockey teams.
And maybe at some point a football team. They seem like they want football.
Yeah, I don't know. They always talk about that kind of like global football shit, but then you get down to the logistics of it. It's like, oh, never mind.
Yeah.
Because they want to like have like a London football team, but basically it wouldn't actually have games in London.
Yeah, I know, because they keep pegging like the Jaguars is moving to London and stuff like that. 'Cause
Yeah.
that's why the Jaguars have played like there the last 3 years
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Is because they're trying to make it a home team But yeah, it's like, yeah, it'd be nice for Mexico City to have a football team. I'm sure it wouldn't be nice to the fans. They probably get robbed and kidnapped on the way to the fucking stadium.
The
But
Mexico City Cartel.
that's too on the nose. How about drug ring?
Yeah.
Something a little more kid friendly.
I can't remember if you were here when I told you this. Did you follow hockey anytime for anything this year?
I know who won the championship. But that's pretty much about it.
Well, you know who they fought against, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they were an expansion team, and they went to
Yeah.
the championship their first year. Okay.
No, and that's good because that means it's actually so either it was too balanced in their favor or it was actually balanced because that's
Well, this is what I heard. I'm not sure if you know this, but like, I mean, I barely heard it on one podcast I was listening to, but like the reason, so they had like an expansion draft,
yeah,
so what they did is they drafted from all the concurrent teams,
yeah.
and basically each team you get two guys that they can't draft, and that's it. But everybody else you can just put together. So apparently that's how this is. Like they grabbed everyone's third best player.
It's kind of a. I mean, do they get
Super
to
team.
do they get to keep them for the length of their original contracts? I have decided.
I don't know. It's probably a short contract. I'm not sure. It's probably different.
There's got to be some way to balance. Otherwise, it'd be like, "Yep, we got this player for the next 10 years. Suck it." Like
just a team of 30 Tony Kukocs. He's not a bad player, but like he's not Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan. But if you get 30 of them, they're an amazing team.
No, it's just I kind of want to watch hockey again because I think it's actually in a good place where it's interesting and stuff like that. But at the same time, I mean, I don't know.
It was nice to see Ovechkin win, though. So
Yeah, I mean, like, I think we discussed that in the car ride of Chicago. Like, he did not look like he looked when he was fucking first guy in the league. He looks pretty beat the fuck up now.
yeah, he's like missing
Like,
teeth.
old
He
and
looks like a 40-year-old man. He's like his hair's receding. He's like, what the fuck happened to this like young up and coming star? He's got a full beard.
The life
A
force.
couple years of brutal physical contact ages you quickly.
Yeah, but he's like a scorer, so he doesn't. He's people are supposed to beat the shit out of him before they get to him. But yeah, he did not look svelte and young anymore.
He sold his life force and soul for the Stanley Cup. But no, it'd be nice to go to a hockey game at some point. I've been to Rough Riders games; it was pretty fun. But it'd be nice to go there. But we can talk about
Rashomon.
yeah, Rashomon.
Yeah, I watched a movie this week. Watched Akira Kurosawa's 1950 classic Rashomon, which was a really cool looking movie.
Yeah.
I liked like the destroyed structures and rain, and then the forests look like, like this is a supernatural forest. It's just I forget how they did it, but
They didn't have any lights. They used mirrors to direct sunlight to light the movie.
Is that why the movie looks so bright and dark at the
Yeah,
same time?
yeah.
It was kind of had a weird, cool look to it. I didn't know that was a byproduct of production troubles. I thought that was something they were going for.
Probably the first time, the earliest film I've seen like a camera shot just go up to the leaves in the trees and just go through to the sun.
Yeah, well, apparently that was the first time anybody ever decided to just point a camera at the sun.
Yeah, I saw a couple of those. That seemed pretty. That's an interesting choice.
Which because I was reading the trivia about it, and so I heard that shot before I saw the shot. So I thought it was just gonna be like an empty shot with the sun in it. It's like, was it just a fucking white frame? Like, what are they talking about pointing at the sun? That doesn't seem like that hard. Isn't that it's like through trees and shit? And it's like, oh, okay, well that makes.
Yeah, what would be considered low budget and time filling now was an innovating shot back then. So I mean, I like the movie, or at least I think I pretty much saw 90% of it before it cut out. But
Yeah, you said you got to the wife's story.
yeah, like the end of her testimony.
Yeah.
Which I don't know what part of the film that is.
That's probably about halfway through, because there's two more stories after that. You have you have the samurai story, which is told through a medium. And then you have
yeah. Okay. Discount that story.
Then the woodsman tells the truth, right?
sort of.
Kind of,
Because
yeah.
even his is it's debatable, but because I mean that's what the interesting thing about the movie is, like, they don't tell you which one's right. You're kind of supposed to come up with it.
Right.
Well, you automatically discount the bandit story because, like, why would he tell the truth?
I liked his one the most because it basically set up like, okay, whatever happened to these people is their own goddamn fault. Because if somebody, let's just put this in a modern context. Say I'm traveling with my wife in our car, and somebody comes up to me and brandishes a gun in my face, and then just
I have some awesome guns buried up on the hill.
But at the same time, they're
You
just
like those guns?
okay, they point at your face, but then they take it away. They're like, I'm kidding. and then they just like, I got some cool shit I found in an abandoned place like back there or behind some trees. You want to come with me and you can buy it from me? And then just like those people follow him. They sealed their fate there. I don't care what happened to them. They're fucking idiots. They don't deserve to live. It's basically like being a maniac. Because that's why I love the Bandit's character. It's just like he's a complete fucking wild card. Like it's just fucking completely insane.
Yeah.
Especially this whole count of events of like, it's like, oh, I knew I'd have her if I didn't kill her husband. And she like makes out with him, and suddenly it's like, oh, you're my man now. It's like fucking.
Yeah, the wife seems like a little weird.
Yeah.
It's like this kind of turns me on.
No eyebrows.
Now this is a weird period. This movie doesn't really. It's almost like a universal story, but it does take place. It was just like the 12th century Japan. This was one of their weird times where crime ruled the country because they either didn't have money or their money failed, so all you could do was trade for shit. Like they didn't have a central currency for some reason. This movie was based on a period I remember I read where it's like rice was the main currency. But see, they had currency before this, but then that system collapsed. And then, of course, it was all basically landowners and, the 1%. They had literally everything in this period of Japan. So banditry and just this kind of horrible struggle for survival, that shit was really going on at this point in Japanese history. And but I don't know if this even makes mention of that, but I know like.
Well, I mean, it starts off with like the Rashomon is like the gate, like it's supposed to be this gate, keep people from coming in, but it's like just dilapidated and burned down, and it's raining, so that gives you an idea of what's going on. Like this isn't a great world they live in.
Yeah, because the monk or whatever is talking about like, well, the apocalypse must be on. I think he actually calls it that in some it's like it must be upon us or something like that. But I remember I know like in the 12th century, 13th century, somewhere in Japan, it's like they had money and then they lost money and it really fucked them up. Because the Chinese were culturally close to dominating the Japanese because of Buddhism and stuff at this time, because their leaders in Japan suck so bad. But then they came roaring back and killed a bunch of Chinese people for them by their light. So, but yeah, that's the in this movie that it's thick forests and like you said, the crazy bandit. That's the thing I've noticed in a lot of Japanese entertainment, though. There's always someone who's laughing crazily like that, delivering lines that are very, like, immediately suspicious. And it's like, oh, yeah, your laughter at the end only reinforces my need to believe you.
I mean, this is the 50s, so I think there's a lot of theater performance going on there.
Yeah.
Performing to an audience that isn't really there.
Seemed to have that kind of theater vibe to it.
I wish they would have... Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I wish I would have paced the interview questions, because it just seemed like nobody's ever talking back to them. It just kept going on. Where it's like, yes, I'll tell you about the sword. Oh, what about his wife? And then
yeah.
Just like...
Yeah, they neglect to show like the actual court that's like that's holding this this like interrogation and trying to determine who is
people kneeling on the ground and talking. Guy shot up with arrows, and yeah, it's all kinds of weird shit.
I like how the bandit was talking about how he got sick or whatever and like got off his horse because he was so sick. It's like a poisonous snake must have died in the stream ahead of me, and then I drank too much, so I got poisoned and blah. And it's like, wow, that was an elaborate. Like, it could have just been I got sick of something I ate, or I just fucking drank too much water. Just nothing normal.
Yeah. But it's a great atmospheric movie. It's a great looking movie.
Yeah, and it, you know, and the result of the storytelling also was like genius, probably in a production way, because it's like, oh yeah, we just shoot 4 scenes a couple different ways, and that's our movie. It's like one set, couple sets, we're good.
Yeah, we only have like what 5 or 6 actors and 2 or 3 locations.
Yeah,
that's pretty much it.
No.
I mean, I know why they didn't do the judge panel. I just wish they would have paced out the questions a little bit more time in between. So it was. I know they didn't do that to save dialogue and actors, but it's like at least then it might seem like somebody was asking them something in an actual string of questions. Because I don't ever ask you questions like, "Hey Colin, what's your favorite food? What movie did you see last? And what time?" Like all in the same fucking span.
Last question first.
Like it's.
I forgot the third question. Can you repeat that?
No, make up an answer.
Yeah, there was some, but again, you know, you're dealing with another language, so
Oh, I
know how it comes across.
That's why I like in the subtitles when the woodcutter was talking about when he found the body in the first part of the film. It's like, I ran right away and told the police. I'm like, yeah, the police are a thing. But, I mean, yeah, you might have a local magistrate or whatever, you know, as the local chain of command for investigating things like that, but they weren't called the police. Like,
I can't. What would when you get to the woodcutter story, didn't he witness the rape and the killing, and he just didn't do anything?
He didn't want to get involved because he thought he didn't know. The authorities, I guess, I gather from like the last story he told, it's like the authorities were just as likely to kill you as help you, and so he just didn't want to get involved because he had, you know, and you find out I got a wife and 6 kids, so yeah, he didn't want to deal with the affairs of, you know, samurai who would have been the upper class, and then of course a woman being raped and someone being killed. He's like, yeah, I'm not interested.
And then in the samurai story, he just killed himself.
Yeah.
Well, I found the woodcutter instantly guilty, and just in his first story, because who walks that far into the forest to cut down a tree? There's trees right next to him. Like, just cut down the nearest one. You're gonna have to drag that fucking tree all the way back where you just walked.
Yeah, I was reading some trivia, and they're talking about like the woodcutter being they're basically talking about like he's almost a psychopath or something, like, and like he's really the bad one in the whole thing, and but
yeah, I could see if you really were getting deep that you could maybe draw things into the different characters. I did a one pass over the movie and watched it, and you know, again, I like the look of it.
And now we know what a Rashomon type story is.
Yes,
it's the same story told from different perspectives.
4 different perspectives in this case,
and there's usually a lie in every story.
Yeah.
And it's cheap to produce.
Yeah, because I know like a lot of, I was like thinking, because the only thing that came to mind was like Basic as a Rashomon type story, the one with Samuel L. Jackson and John Travolta, the last John McTiernan movie.
Oh, yeah.
Where he got caught spying on Hollywood. But also like then I realized like, oh yeah, they do this type of thing in like comedies all the time. Like this is like a standard, like what they call like boiler room episodes or some shit like that, where it's like, oh, we only have like $10,000 to put this episode together because we spent too much on the last one. It's like, fuck it, Rashomon, trapped in an elevator story.
Yep. The old elevator scene.
No, there's been a couple of movies I've seen in the last like decade that are Rashomon type stories where like the action goes out in one room and it's all obviously told through different time snippets and different angles from different characters and stuff like that. So, and there's been like segments of that in like Quentin Tarantino's Hateful Eight where it kind of goes like where they're trying to figure out the traitor and stuff like that. Like
yeah.
Kind of compare stories and stuff. It's a pretty common element in some archetypes and some storylines. But is that the first instance of that type
I kind
story.
of doubt it, but it kind of stuck to that one. Maybe it was the first movie that did it.
Yeah, I think so. Well, because this was based on what was the book called? In a Grove or something. And that was a Japanese book, but it was yeah, it was basically had the woodcutter, the samurai, the wife, and all that. So I think that book was written in 19. Let me look at my notes. 1922. So yeah. But I'm sure there's been I'm sure Shakespeare did something like this at some point.
Or according to some historians, ripped off something like this at some point.
But also, I was watching a bunch of interviews, and I think like this film like got around film school, so maybe that just became the touchstone for like those types of movies, and just people just called them Rashomon type movies.
Yeah, because this is like the ultimate film school movie.
And it's 1950s, so that's only like what 5 years removed from World War II.
Yeah, it wasn't long.
Oh, this is 1950. Isn't this one of his first ones?
This is his first one.
Oh, it is? Okay. Yeah, because the other ones I watched were like in the 60s, I think.
Yeah.
Or late 50s.
Well, because, yeah, I thought...
I think Throne of Blood was like 67 or something?
yeah.
Yeah.
Or 64?
Because you guys watched the other one that's like based on... Or Star Wars is based on...
Yeah, Hidden Fortress, yeah.
Hidden Fortress, yeah.
I didn't get to watch that one. And I think Seven Samurai is like 1957, 1958.
That might be the latest one, I'm not sure. I have them all here. I can look at them.
That's one I haven't watched yet, but I know Colin still has mine.
Yeah, I just have yours,
Yeah.
your copy of it, even though we all
Yeah,
have
I've had
access
it for like
to
4
it.
years now. I haven't watched it yet, so it's kind of on me for not watching it. But I kind of just sometimes I need to be in the right mood for certain movies, and I want to give it full.
Well, yeah, especially like things with subtitles.
Yeah.
Where, like it's easy for you to just get distracted. It's like, I'll come back to this when my attention is ready for this.
Plus, I think Seven Samurai is like almost a 3-hour movie.
I'm not sure how long it is.
It's definitely not. I mean, I think this one today was what, like an hour and a
Hour and
half,
40 minutes, I think.
something like that. So one of his shorter movies.
Yeah.
It didn't seem very long, yeah.
Yeah, Seven Samurai is 54. Rashomon's 50. Yojimbo's 61. I think that's a Kurosawa one. I might have like cut off the other Kurosawa ones. Oh.
But anyway, Rashomon, check it out.
Catch it
Catch it.
at your local library. It's got to be there, right?
Yeah. Oh, like I said, we're basically going through the film school catalog at this point.
This is our third Kurosawa movie.
Yep.
Because I've heard so much about Kurosawa that
So far, I've liked every one I've seen.
yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to say I was riveted to my seat, but I enjoyed it.
Isn't the only Kurosawa film that's not on here like basically his last one?
Oh, Ran?
Yeah.
You can
No, Rand's on here.
Oh, Ran is
read
okay.
on there. Yeah.
Never mind.
Well,
I
his,
thought-
his last one is 93 on here called Matadeo, which I don't know
Oh.
about that.
He died in 99?
Oh, that's his first movie was in
Well,
43.
His main screenwriter that like screenwrote Seven Samurai and stuff like that just died the other day. He was 102 or 104 years old.
Yeah, Throne of Blood was 57. Okay, that wasn't 60. Hidden Fortress was 58. Okay.
Yeah, I think Kurosawa did movies before this, but I think it was mainly like propaganda films for
Probably.
the Imperial Japanese Army.
Well,
No, he
it
did a
could-
lot of those.
Well, it has here, at least on Criterion, it's 1943 is his first one for Criterion. It's called Senshiro Sugata.
Oh, okay.
Kurosawa's effortless debut is based on a novel by Tsunobu Tamita about the rivalry between judo and jiu-jitsu. Okay.
Okay. Sounds exciting. Is there a bunch of Brazilian guys in there? Is Joe Rogan gonna commentate that movie?
Let me take some Alpha Brain and hit the deprivation chamber before I watch this shit.
He's showing great technique here.
The conspiracy theory this week is, I've heard that's the thing I've kind of wanted to listen to some of his interviews and podcasts because supposedly it's entertaining.
It is.
But at the same time, it's like he's really supposedly into conspiracy theories, but also like fucking weird like protein and some of that shit.
He's into conspiracy theories in a cynical way.
Oh, okay.
But
Not like
he
wholeheartedly
he
believes.
enjoys it as like kind of like a thought exercise.
Oh, I'd be okay with that.
'Cause I remember like
Kinda
he
I'm into conspiracy theories. It's like I like the ideas here. I know this is bullshit, but
well, it's like he had this one guy on who's like, he's like a real scientist, but he's like really trying to like figure out Bigfoot. And you talk to the guy, it's like, well, the guy he's talking to isn't insane.
yeah.
So it kind of leads his credence to the insane thing he's looking for. But no, Joe Rogan stuff. I mean, you listened to the Kevin Smith one, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're all like that, pretty much.
No,
I mean, the ones where he does a lot of talking to MMA fighters and stuff, sometimes it gets like deep. It's like, oh, they're doing deep cuts off something I don't even understand. So I might tune those out. But the ones with the comedians and some of the, I mean, that's where I discovered, what's that guy's name that everyone's talking about now? Jordan Peterson, the professor, psychology professor from Canada.
Yeah.
He's supposedly this like alt-right crazy figure who hates transgendered people. And then Joe Rogan's done a bunch of interviews with him. He's like, oh, that's not what he's doing at all. I don't agree with a lot of the stuff the guy says, but at least it's like an honest interview. Who else did he have on there that was really interesting? Oh, he had the libertarian guy when he was running for president, Gary Johnson. that was, and he asked him directly about so what was the thing with not knowing what Aleppo was? That's really bad. You know, that comes across, that makes you look stupid. And he explained it, and it didn't help Gary Johnson, but it was an interesting interview.
He's a libertarian candidate. I don't think anything can really help Gary Johnson. Unless the other two main candidates died and they didn't get replaced before the election.
Oh, I don't know. Like I said, I become the more time goes on, the more politically agnostic I become.
My question is, if that actually happened in real life, like let's just say for some reason they're both on the same plane and it goes down like the night before the election, do the two main parties like cry bullshit and like go?
Oh, they just whoever the vice presidential candidate is runs.
Oh, okay.
Well, there's been stuff where like a guy died and like his wife would become like the governor or some shit like that.
Yeah, that's happened before.
Well, because I know they've always, like, when people have died during campaign runs for different seats, they've been voted in posthumously, but then they're either replaced by somebody that was running with them or somebody in their
It's
own.
like the winning party gets the advantage to put somebody in place, but there'll usually be some sort of special election soon after, or 2 years after, or some shit like that.
Yeah, I think if you lose a senator like that or whatever, the governor can appoint someone, and then you have to have a special. It's different for every state, though. Some states are it's all different, but they do have to have somebody there for, especially. I mean, for representatives and stuff, you can sort of wait, but like senators and people like that,
But
they have.
you're trying to construct a scenario where like the Republican candidate and the Democratic candidate, like in some way, like have nobody there for a candidacy. Can the third party win? And the answer is no.
Well, no, I know that's true because not every state posts every third party candidate.
Unless it's in Minnesota, then you got a chance.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing, like, even in Iowa, our last ballot, our presidential election, there was Jill Stein and Gary Johnson, but I think that was it.
Yeah.
There was no other third-party candidate. I really wanted to vote for the gay zoo owner that owned a bunch of lions in Las Vegas. I couldn't vote for him. He's not on our ballot in our state. I mean, it's
We get a presidential ballot in Michigan's like a 2-page affair. Like, what's the natural law party? Who's the U.S. taxpayers party? World Socialist Union? What the fuck are all these all kinds of weird candidates?
I'm trying to figure how many. I mean, everybody makes a big deal about how much money Democrats and Republicans spend on campaign, like advertising and run up and all that stuff. But how much money do you think all these little tiny parties that have no fucking shot in blazing hell actually run through Because especially like the Green Party and Libertarian Party, those are the two main third parties. They have conventions. They actually elect somebody to be the representative, to be the presidential candidate. How much money do they burn through? Because that seems like a lot of wasted money for
there's
1 in a billion chance.
I mean, there's lots of volunteer work, even in the Democratic and Republican parties.
Yeah.
There's volunteer work. There's also, like, if you fill out the correct forms and you meet some criteria,
Public funding.
the government has to fund your campaign.
I think it's to the tune of like $10 million if you get on enough ballots in enough states. So the stuff you're talking about, yeah, like you can easily conventioneer for a little bit with matching federal funds. Now that doesn't get you round the clock, advertising about how Hillary is part
Across
of
the country.
Satanic Illuminati and Trump made fun of retarded people, or you don't get that round the clock for $10 million. That takes billions, but yeah.
No, just
No third party.
no.
And usually, sometimes those third parties will they'll leverage, like TV time.
Yeah.
It's like, well, the candidates don't have time for all these TVs, but this third party candidate, they'll go on one show that'll have them, and then they kind of get. But they used to not be able to always do that, right? Now they can.
Well,
there was kind of like equal TV time stuff there used to
It's
be, but
supposed
not
to be
anymore.
TV, that's the law.
yeah, it's kind of loosely interpreted. You can't have like Rush Limbaugh almost got in trouble for that. That's why he wouldn't, because remember when he had George H.W. Bush on his show in the 90s, early 90s, when he was running against Clinton. And yeah, that's when that got pulled out of. That's when that reared its ugly head for the first time. It's like, hey, Rush Limbaugh did a 3-hour advertisement for George H.W. Bush, and then it became this whole notion of, well, you can't do one without the other. But
then there was the other thing with who was the other guy? Perot? Fuck him.
yeah,
Crazy. Ross Perot. He just bought screen time.
Yeah.
But now it's just free for all, right?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, it's essentially, yeah.
Because especially in the last election, Trump basically got all day to himself on almost every news channel.
Yeah, Trump's biggest advertiser during his campaign was CNN, because he spent what was 80% less than Hillary Clinton to win. I know it was but it was because he was. I mean, Hillary Clinton wasn't running. I mean, Trump was practically shouting the N-word. It was like, oh God, point all the cameras at him. I mean, he couldn't do anything weirder to get more attention. And Hillary was just like, let's talk about economics, and all the cameras just pan away from her. It's like, oh, we want to see what this guy's going to say next. And then a bunch of people disenfranchised people in America were like, hey, that's how me and my friends talk. Let's vote for this guy. And then, then we're in the situation.
Well, also, one of the big reasons they spent way less was because of Cambridge Analytica.
Yeah. I mean,
they
find
knew
out
exactly where to put their money.
Yeah, as time goes on, we're starting to find out that it was a lot more. It was a lot more than just a plucky candidate with a unique message. It was way more sinister than that.
No, the reason I brought some of that up is that literally, from the history of our political process and how the parties that have waned and gained power and then either died.
Bring the Whig Party back.
Yeah, Whig Party. I mean, you're talking about when Abraham Lincoln was elected, when he split his own party and won. Are those days even possible anymore? Because, like I said,
no.
The states,
well,
all 50 states don't have to put all.
If we have some Mad Max shit happen, we'll get those things. We'll get some plucky. Groups back.
Yeah, because you got to remember when Abraham Lincoln did that, there was a question whether there would be an America.
Yeah.
That was the most violent struggle we'd ever fought in. And then some of those I forget what happened to the Tories and the Whigs. They just kind of merged into other things.
Well, the Whigs merged into the Democrats, and I don't remember what happened to the other people.
Yeah, I know. It depends. A lot of those were like farmers' parties and stuff, and then once that receded, I mean, you know why the Republicans became the Republicans we know today, right? What happened there was after the Civil War, you know, the South was smashed, and the Republican Party, you know, but basically they were the North, and they had all the factories and all the industry and all the railroads and everything, and then they became the rich people, and then the Republican Party became the party of the rich. But that was like everyone was a Republican to the Mason-Dixon line. Everyone below the Mason-Dixon line was a Democrat
Until
and
civil
it was
rights.
and then it switched.
And now, for some reason, pretty much all the states with the higher GDP are the Democrats, and the ones with the lower GDP are Republicans.
Yeah,
Except for basically Texas and maybe a few swing states.
because after all, the Republicans are the party of the disenfranchised now. Remember?
Yeah, because even though they hate minorities and they hate people that are poor, which is the majority of the country,
Hey, they don't hate minorities and different
their
people.
public figureheads hate minorities.
The people inside the party do.
That makes all the difference. No, it doesn't. It's, I don't know. It's just sad.
But no, you're not, because I mean that's what we have now, because the just the pure cost and logistics of running for a party. At least on that scale, on smaller scales, you can get more diverse political groups in charge of things or in power somehow. But yeah, but once you get on a big, grander scale, everyone had to compromise, and that's why you have like all these, the degrees of the left and the degrees of the right. It's like, well, we're just gonna band it together because that's the only way we're gonna win anything. Because even though all our ideas are compromised to this middle one or wherever the middle shifts, that's the only way we can win, and still don't.
I know.
Well, yeah, and that's another thing. Like you talk to a Democrat from California, like a representative, and talk to a Democrat from Texas, you'd think you weren't talking to this people. In the same party. They have, they're ostensibly in the same party. They have very different interests.
Yeah.
I mean, because you got to remember, like Indiana used to have a Republican senator or a Democratic senator and a Democratic governor, and they had a Democratic governor for like 30 years.
Yeah.
But they were not. You talk to him and talk to some guy from New York, it's like, well, because one's an agriculture state, one's what does New York do? Just exploit people through banks, stocks or something, whatever. Yeah, we grew corn in Indiana, New York exploited. So, but those two Democrats were not even
themed motorcycles too.
Yeah, something like that.
Export of rat meat.
But yeah, so they're not really in the same party. It's just like Conlon said, the bigger you can have 9 different parties on your local city council. But we don't have a government that's really based on compromise at the federal level. Like in Canada, they have how many different parties in their parliament? Like 12 or 15. Like there's people in the
is that kind of like also in sort of how the fucking British do it?
Yeah, it's the same system.
Okay, yeah.
But whoever has the most candidates, that's their party picks the prime minister, and if they don't have it, they are not candidates. Whoever has the most parliamentarians, their guy leads the party. But if they don't have the most, they can form blocks with other people. But there's people in the Canadian Parliament that their whole reason for existing is because they want Quebec to secede from the rest of Canada. That's all they represent, and they've been in those seats for 30 years. So it's.
You're failing at your job. The fight goes on.
Why the hell does Quebec need to secede from Canada?
Oh, because they're completely culturally different.
I don't know. Apparently, Texas wants to secede from America, and California wants to split into 3 different states.
At least Texas makes sense. Texas can actually support itself and actually be a real country. Quebec, I couldn't see doing that. They don't have the natural resources and infrastructure to do that.
Oh, I'm sure they got tons of oil up there.
Yeah, they got Quebec's it's pretty big too. If you look at it on a map, it's not small, but there's not a lot of people there either.
No, I know every province in Canada is pretty big because it all stretches north, and there's really no cutoff that way for the most part.
Well, not if you ask the Russians.
Well, I know, but it's
they think that's like some resource area for them. like, exclusively. But yeah, so we don't have those kind of systems, so we just divide up into two parties. Because the thing with a federal system like ours is, if you had too many parties in there, I mean, you think it's gridlock now. Like, really imagine the light shutting off. You got a bunch of these libertarians, like, oh Jesus Christ. The first move from the neighboring states would be to, like, the governors would be like, I'm raising the National Guard to invade Idaho or something. They're trying to charge us for water or something. I mean, that's the kind of that's what America would do. A lot of people seem really primed for it. It's like, oh yeah, that's gonna work out great. Because remember, what was there supposed to be a civil war launched on the 4th of July? Speaking of conspiracy theories.
No, what's this one?
Oh, it's just something Alex Jones was telling everyone. Like, yeah, 4th of July, this is when the Democrats are gonna attack Trump and they're launching their war.
With their hugs.
Yeah. I don't understand all this fear. Soy army. I don't know. But yeah.
Whatever happened to was some Jade Dragon or Jade Helm or some fucking shit from 4 years ago, where they're taking.
Oh, is that the ones where all the Walmarts they were closing were being turned into internment camps to put patriots in? And yeah,
eventually it was just children from other countries.
But, well, yeah, but time. Once, as long as American patriots aren't being interned.
Well, we have to feed all these foreign kids with all these dead grandmas we put together.
That's true.
From our FEMA camps.
Yeah, that was the last big one. That one got pretty crazy. That got to the point where senators were having to address that. Like, people from Texas, like, there is no special forces operation going on here. Like, they were addressing the public, like the press, having old pressers about it. Like, this is not happening.
Oh, I'm sorry, but if the governor of Texas comes out and says there's nothing happening, but then the whole operation...
What's happening?
No, the whole operation will be like the first tier, like top secret. Like, the governor's not gonna fucking know that shit. So it's like, I can't see somebody in the crowd that's a conspiracy nut not going like, you don't fucking know. Like,
well, the nuts aren't gonna believe that, but there were people that were so worked up about it that they would see like semi trucks going down the road and they'd be like following them, calling the sheriff. Like, I see some of the trucks, they're bringing in troops, and it's like a fucking, Target truck or something. It's like, I don't think that's, but yeah, they were getting frantic phone calls from people about, oh, my neighbor was telling me about some secret operation. Well, it's like, first of all, your neighbor wouldn't know about a secret operation. And if he did, he wouldn't tell you.
I always wondered, like, well, maybe they're blacked out. You can't really see inside, but like we occasion our unit would have to go to a place to either for a rifle range or just for we'd like have all the debts come together and we do a fucking thing together. They call that. So be in the field, do that shit, put up some tents, hop over shit, shoot some guns.
Yeah,
that thing. But we'd ride in buses and we'd all have our rifles. no bullets whatsoever. Just have our rifles and a bunch of Marines dressed in uniform in a fucking public bus driving on the highway. I was like, I wonder if anybody sees this, what they think's happening. This is just training. But I always thought that, like, that this has to be weird from the outside. I mean, it's not weird to me because I've done this too many times.
I don't think the weirdest thing I've ever seen military. Well, they have a lot of weird vehicles that they'll load up on trailers here and take them somewhere, because a lot of the thing that looks like the big bus or whatever. What's it called? It's like bulletproof.
Yeah.
It's like a whole operation center inside. They make those here. And you'll see them on the back of a semi, like, what the fuck is that? But when you see like 8 of them in a row, that's kind of weird. But they're being pulled on something. They're not driving down the road.
Yeah.
But that is kind of weird because I think to myself, how many millions of dollars is that? You know, just going down the road.
When we went up to Chicago, we like passed by a military convoy because they can only like drive like 50 on the highway. I was like, why is traffic backing up all of a sudden?
Now, no. The only time that would freak me out, like if I was coming off the off ramp and saw an Abrams tank driving down the, oh, this clearly indicates there's a problem somewhere.
I don't know what the rules about tanks. I don't think tanks are actually allowed, unless there's martial law. I don't think tanks can drive on the highway.
No, because Trump was pissed about it because he wanted to see tanks roll through Washington, and they had to tell him, like, we can't do tanks. He's like, why not? That looks cool. The French do it all the time. It's like, well, yeah, the French built their roads to tolerate that. They had to explain to him, like, our roads are not meant to accommodate 60-ton tracked vehicle, not public roads. That's not. It'll literally throw the asphalt up behind it as it goes. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, they would have to be pretty crazy to be driving one of those on public streets. Plus, your chances of hitting something would be really high.
So the good news is the military parade's dead.
No, they're still gonna have it. They just can't have fucking tanks in it.
Unless they go to a military base.
The mayor of Chicago was basically like, yeah, no tracked vehicles on the roads, please. Unless we're being invaded, then by all means.
Then bring the tracked vehicles in. But don't have them on the roads because they're going to expect that. Just drive through the tree line.
Yeah,
hit the enemy.
Don't drive in straight lines down roads you can see from satellites. Probably not a good idea.
Isn't there like I know there's like a no-fly zone around like the Washington Monument and the Capitol building, stuff like that. But as far as like a military parade goes, does that like really screw that up? Because I know it's monitored, but isn't there? Like,
well, I don't think they're going to be walking down the streets with loaded guns, so no, it shouldn't. I don't know.
No, not the walking down the street part. I just meant the number of aircraft in the area at the time. Is there like a limited number of air traffic or something?
I don't know. I could go to the Secret Service website and ask, but I'm sure they'd come to the door like, so, what's your interest in this?
No, because if Trump wants his...
I want to know if there's a window.
if Trump wants his stupid fucking military parade with all the big bells, whistles bullshit that he thinks he deserves or some bull crap, I'm sure he'll have like fucking a line of, F-15s or whatever flying by and doing his shit. So I didn't know exactly what the limitations were.
I mean, they fucking do parades at military bases all the time. Just go to a fucking military base and have a parade.
Just stand out there on the podium and...
You fucking put on parades when generals come to, like,
inspect.
Yeah, or just hang out, see what's going on.
Casual inspection.
That's when they bring out the shit and it's like, this is what we do. Is it? No.
Looks good, though.
Sorry, I guess I just thought since nobody was bringing it up or, nobody had mentioned it for a while that maybe they convinced them the military parade was a dumb fucking idea.
I don't know. They had, 20 other crazy things to focus on after you mentioned that.
Yeah, it's not been forgotten. It's just
it's at the bottom of the list.
Yeah, the madness has moved on to... It's like a train wreck. It's like you can't just worry about what's happening to one car. It's got to move to the next one.
The question is, will he invite Putin as his +1? I was kind of shocked after all the controversy from him basically, saying the U.S. was the blame for all the fucking hacking and shit. Like, immediately wanted another meeting with Putin. Like, in the next couple days after his last disastrous fucking meeting with Putin.
Oh, he loves that shit. He thinks in his mind he's telling everyone to go fuck themselves, and he's proving them wrong. Only in his mind. Everyone else is just confirming their darkest suspicion. For some reason, he thinks this is victory. And the people that, really believe, I guess, in everything he says, they see it that way, too. They could give a fuck less what we think. It's like, yeah, the optics on this are terrible. I don't know, though. I know he's done his Twitter shit, but we're not hearing anything official about what a great thing this was. And I know a lot of people in his own party are mad, so. because they know they're just looking at this like, what the fuck are you doing? Do you understand politics? do you know what this is?
Well, because he's like the president of Turkey that just got reelected because he's been, strong-arming people, and he's basically trying to stay in power as a dictator. Like, he fist bumps him on fucking television. Like, yeah, what's up, bro? And then fucking, it's like Kim Jong fucking, is it Il or Un? I can't remember what.
Un, I think.
Okay, Kim Jong Un. Like, he fucking just like, yeah, I love him, and it's like, you fucking love all these people that are horrible people to their own goddamn citizens.
But that's the way. As far as I can tell, never met him, but he seems like anybody he meets, he will tell them exactly what they want to hear, and make them feel loved.
Yeah, but he doesn't do that with the fucking actual people that are decent leaders, like Merkel's and fucking.
No, because those people challenge him. He doesn't want that. He wants to be told what a great guy he is. He wants everyone to kiss his ass, and people from third world countries, and people like the Russians. Oh, the Russians love to tell people whatever they want to hear. I mean, they like to make people braid the noose for them so they don't have to. That's the Russian tradition. And Trump hates the press, and he hates the accusations, whether real or imagined, that he colluded with the Russians. And this is what he's just going to carry on like this, regardless of how self-destructive it is, because he's mad at people. Because that's the guy who's running the country right now. This isn't some Machiavellian multi-leveled scheme to make Russia and America one country. This is just the immature, angry man who's never felt loved. Apparently, I don't know what his problem is, but
It seems that way.
Terrible human being. This is literally the worst person we've ever had in an elected office. I mean, yeah, Clinton was a lech, and you can say George W. Bush was a frat boy, but this guy is.
What about Garfield?
Garfield also didn't have the ability to launch 9,000 nuclear weapons. That's sort of the difference. Nobody cared.
Not without a cheeseburger.
Yeah.
Didn't have the power to destabilize our economy by making a couple of Twitter rants.
Yeah. So this is the guy that apparently 32% of the people in this country just can't get enough of. I don't understand it. I don't understand it any more today than the night it happened. And
no, it's still just like they didn't want a politician, and they didn't get one.
Yeah.
They got exactly what they wanted.
Yeah, so if you wonder why people still that's why. It's like he's not a politician, and that's what they wanted.
Yep. And that's fine, except the rest of us have to live in this fucking world.
But Nathan, the economy.
Yeah,
it's only gotten worse and worse. Yay.
No, it's still at the top.
No, it's growing. It actually is growing now. What
I don't know what secret thing they did that's gonna fall on its ass in a couple of years is, but
well, what foundation of sand that's no, I mean, like right now it looks really good, but those houses in Shinzan looked really good too until it rained. Paper mache is great until you weather it. Or maybe it's the best thing ever, and maybe the other, I don't know, 50% of this country, maybe we're all fucking.
Yeah, maybe we're just hurting ourselves by not jumping in the pool.
All right, I guess my question is the economy up not only on unemployment, job retention rates, and also GDP growth and stock value, or is it just up in just fucking stock value because he gave
it's up in everything except wages. And nobody knows why.
That's a great sign.
I mean, because half the factors for the economy being better, or even more than that, actually, are just always tied to the last administration. We're still in that grace period where that credit belongs to the people ahead of him.
Yes, we are.
And it's something where it's like he keeps taking credit for it, but he also keeps torpedoing the shit out of it with all of his stupid fucking actions.
Yes, he is.
So it's almost like, how do you take credit for something you're trying to actively dismantle? but also at the same time claiming, somebody else, set this up for, disaster.
Well, there's this thing called mental illness, and there's this, I mean, a guy like Trump, there's a shot clock running in the corner of his eye. How much time does this guy really have? I mean, he's 71 years old, probably just maybe a little bit less fat than me. Yeah, it's he doesn't give a shit. There's no long-term thinking there. This is all about him and his ego.
Well, I would hope with the amount of aspartame he drinks every day, a brain tumor will be coming along shortly. But
well, whatever it is, it's going to be the best thing that ever happened. If he gets a brain tumor, it'll be the best brain tumor ever, and he'll get on Twitter and say that.
Maybe he can come across some foreign accent syndrome.
Oh, that'd be great. Just starts rambling in French. Can't speak English for some unknown reason.
Yeah, well, that'd be horrible because then it's like he's actually smart. He learned another language.
Well, no, it's not. You don't know
No,
another language. It's accented English.
Oh.
Have you ever heard of that?
No.
Well, I only heard it from the Tom Segura routine, which is pretty good. It's on Netflix. Go watch it.
Oh.
Check it out, Tom Segura.
It's like somebody would like, he talks about it like I think it was a lady in Britain, and she got knocked in the head, and she spoke English. Woke up, she spoke English with a Chinese accent.
Oh, okay.
And she could not talk that way.
Okay, because Nathan just said talk French, so I was like, oh, okay, he's gonna learn.
Yeah, but it's like but it's accented.
Okay.
And it's
No, yeah, I didn't say that right. Well, yeah, what I meant to say is if he starts speaking with a French accent.
Okay.
it'd be Trump, but he'd be talking like a soccer player.
Yeah. Every other Formula One driver.
Yep.
So are lucky to get like some.
Do you think it's weird that there's no Americans driving a Formula One car?
No, because all the money's here.
Really
Why would you want to develop the skill and patience and work your way through a foreign bracket when you can go drive in a circle here for $20 million and get some hot 20-year-old blonde?
Yeah, I think the Formula One drivers make more money, don't they? It's like some of them make like $50 million a year, but that's
They
like
might make more
that's the
money.
top. But I'm not sure if you include merchandise, because I know NASCAR makes tons of merchandise.
Yeah, I don't. Even if they make more money, it's probably not as intense.
Because there's a bunch of British drivers, tons of like Swedish drivers, a couple of Russians, a couple of Norwegians, I think, and then like some guys from South America. But like nobody. And a guy
like
from Mexico, but
it's like soccer. We do our own thing. It's
yeah.
like we create our own sports because we have kart, we have IndyCar, we have NASCAR, we have.
What's funny is the guys that suck in F1 go over to Indy and like become champions.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Like the shorter cars, a little easier.
Well, I
for
think
them?
just because it's easier, but also they're like that. They're driving basically the hardest way to drive. It's like that's the top of like the sport essentially, and then you like put it down like, oh, driving a circle now. It's like, this is cool.
I like how racing billboards is a national pastime. Like it's not. I don't understand. I don't understand NASCAR and driving around in fucking circles. There's no thrill to that.
Well, no, it's not. It's not the circle part. It's more of the drafting and stuff like that. There is a technique and interest that involves that, and also that creates the most potential for car wrecks, massive car wrecks.
Yeah, there's a lot more subtlety in NASCAR than what people think, and the pit crews, and everyone likes to watch it. I mean, Formula One does that too, but the NASCAR pit crews that's something else. It's like they're just like, how can we shave a second off? It's like you can't. It's like, oh yeah, we can. Just hot wire those impact guns and stuff.
But yeah, Formula One's usually focused on. It's almost like a technology experiment for like future race cars and just driving in general. Because like they used to have like these big V8s that sounded really fucking loud and impressive, and then they made these hybrid V6s that they do, and like they barely make a sound.
Formula One back in the days, They used to have like V12s and stuff. They had crazy.
They used to do
shit.
crazy shit. Yeah, you could almost like get away with anything because each car like has a different like. It's not as regulated as NASCAR because NASCAR is supposed to be like everybody basically has the same car. In F1, there's certain regulations, but there's like wiggle room. Like everybody has, it's like the engine has to like be a certain way, but you can configure it however you want. Because there's like Mercedes been the top of the game recently because like how they design their exhaust system. It like basically like recycles the energy inside of itself, which nobody else did that. So it's like every Mercedes engine is just out front. Like it doesn't matter who the driver is. The engine's basically like pushing them. They've since gotten better with it now, so now it's more of a on par now. But yeah, and then they have this system called the KERS system, where it's so you take your braking power, it'll charge up this little like turbo motor, and like on straightaways you hit a button and your car goes faster. So it's like they basically like gamified it. It's like a fucking video game, because it's like on straightaways it's like. They hit this button. There's like this little turbo thing, but also the back fin just like opens up and lets the air go completely through, so then the car can go faster. So yeah, there's a lot of weird, neat shit. And then they have the e-car stuff, the Formula E car. That stuff it's electric cars, totally electric cars. You know how the pit works in that? They drive into the pit. Hop in another fucking car, drive off.
I thought it was gonna be like they could really quickly change the battery pack out.
Yeah, that would be cool. Let's hop in another fucking car.
I mean, if you just made the battery pack like 4 fucking bolts, made it, lifted the car frame up, dropped the battery out, put another one in, dropped it in, 4 bolts in, but at the same time, yeah, I guess. Getting out of the fucking car, getting another one would probably be just as fucking quick.
Yeah, because I don't even think they changed tires. I don't think there's even like a pit really in Formula E, because the races are shorter and they're usually like on street tracks and stuff.
Yeah.
Imagine those sound weird.
Oh yeah, because they're just like. And then they have another one that they haven't gotten yet, but they're gonna have like I forget what it's called, but it's gonna be like a drone league. It's like drone race. It's like electric cars, but they're drones, and they're just drones racing each other. And it's like whoever has the best AI basically wins. They're working on that, but they're not really getting it. It's not really come together yet, but that'll be interesting when they get that. Because then you don't have to design a car around a person. Because also, you have really weird fucking car designs.
Yeah, you can just have like a giant fin with wheels on it. A pod.
Yeah. So, Rashomon, catch it.
That's it. All right. Well, this week for the American Greed Factory podcast, this is Nathan.
This is Colin.
Andrew?
Goodbye, America.